How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses with your favorite show host, Aristotle.
I'm Fern.
And Volatile, and we're here to bring you the latest news and games commentary for the week with all three of us for once. And I didn't actually ask Fern if he needs to run away early or anything like that, but I hope
No,
he
I
doesn't.
don't. Not today.
Is it the start of better days, or you just got lucky this time?
Kind of both. There's,
Yeah.
yeah. My time is not my own so much anymore.
Right. Well, at any rate, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com. You can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw. You can join us in the Discord server, which you can get to by clicking on the link provided underneath the description in the show archive on YouTube.
Yes, indeed. This week we'll be going over weeks, talking a bit about VR and Hoyo stuff, and any news we happen to find.
Yeah. So, yeah, looking over the gaming industry the last couple of weeks, and there's not so much news. It's just a whole lot of screaming.
Well, I mean, realistically, it's been like that since about 2016.
True. Yeah, it's just what are people screaming about today? So we're just going to do a bit of Genshin and evening. All right. As for my week, it hasn't been a big gaming week this week because there's been a lot of physical labor. So yeah, it's been a fun week between an air conditioner blowing up and needing to be replaced with a window rattle box, building a new pergola, a leaky water main that just keeps leaking.
It's a pergola.
An awning, except maybe it kind of the roof of a patio.
I don't think I've ever heard the word before.
Yeah, it's a pretty common word over this side of the strait.
I guess we don't have such things. Nobody really got an awning in this country.
Because
We
your
don't
sun
have enough
isn't
sun for that.
Yeah,
The
you
sun
don't have
never gets
sun.
high in the sky here. Like, the sun is always sort of like close to the horizon. It's never overhead. It doesn't happen.
So yeah, it's this big heavy timber thing that we've been putting together, and it's the plans that we have for a much smaller version. So when you scale that up, the amount of effort
How do you
and
spell
lifting,
that? I can't find it on
Pergola.
Pergola. Pergola, outdoor garden feature. Oh, I see. This looks very Mediterranean.
They can do, yeah. In this case, it's just a triangular.
I'm just looking at
trussy thing.
I'm just looking at the whatchamacallit, the Wikipedia
Yeah.
entry.
Yeah, so that's one version that comes up is just the flat version with this kind of the slats, which looks pretty but has zero function.
Unless you happen to be like running an orchard or something.
Yeah. But if you're not in the Mediterranean, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. In our case, though, it's this big A-framed truss construction. So them's beams are heavy. So yeah, gaming this week has been not a whole lot. Been picking away at Metaphor Fantasio and actually starting to get into the swing of that. Which is once it stops its world building and kind of banging on about the oppression drum that it does, it gets to be a much more fun ride. As it, yes, we know you've established that your world is crap. Okay, let's move on. But no, it bangs on like that for about 4 hours until you get to the first dungeon, and then the game opens up. So beyond that, basically, it's if you've played Persona 5, you know what you're in for. You got your active time clock. You've got dungeons with a time limit. The first dungeon actually kind of made full use of that time limit, as the second one, not so much. The third one, though, you get to the seaside town and you kind of do the dungeon of sneaking into Bad Guy Ju's airship. That dungeon is 4 fights long, and they give you 20 days to do it. No, actually, sorry, I tell a lie. They give you 25.
I see.
So you'll knock out the
What are you
dungeon
doing the rest of the time?
social links at that point.
This game actually thinks it's Persona, doesn't it?
Given that it was
I've
made
unlocked
by the same
I've
people.
unlocked some. Yeah, so instead of personas, you have archetypes, which are basically just classes. Except they're a heroic spirit. Except after a point, you unlocked the masked dancer archetype, and I think that one's locked to a specific character. I don't think it can actually be picked up by everyone else. That character creates masks, and that in turn can be swapped out to take on the abilities of other archetypes. These masks are crafted from tarot named masks, and they have the persona mark on them.
So they just cloned Persona so they could release it again, except won't this time.
The class actually upgrades into Persona Master, and so basically halfway through the game, they give you the full, basically the full character. So when it's not banging the oppression drum, it is actually a lot of fun because it's kind of a world tour wacky races race for the crown type thing they've got going on. So I'm enjoying it, but I don't think it's going to be for everyone. And sometimes it just needs to shut up and get on with it. Now, fighting. Yeah. My biggest problem with the game is like Persona 5 had pacing issues. Metaphor has those same issues in spades because you need your time to do your social links and grind up your skills and all that stuff. But you've also got side quests and in mini dungeons and all that sort of stuff. It's just, yes, there is just sometimes a too big a gap between important events. And I've said it before.
You don't even have to attend school during the day. So
no, you don't. So that's something at least. Instead, you got to go and listen to the old lady talk about her child who accumulate whatever points. Wisdom, I think, of that one. So yeah, you've instead of the 3 skills, you've got 5. So yeah. I think your social links in Persona are 10 stages? One point of merit on that front is a social link. If you do an event for a social link, it will advance. There's none of those little mini events which don't really accomplish anything. Which is good because your classes advancement is all tied to your social links. So you're going to want to get those hammered out. I know they call them something else. I'm just going to call them social links. So yeah, it is a good game, but pacing. Oh, good Lord, the pacing. As far as animus go, I finished Digimon Ghost Game. It ended pretty much how we expected. It's like, yeah, fine. It was good, but yeah, no surprises. And then I went looking for something else weird and came across a fairly recent one, which I'm going to probably mess the name up because it's a mess, which is Bang Brave, Bang Braven, which is a mecha anime. So the game, without reading the synopsis, it's like the anime starts kind of seriously. It's like America and Japan are testing out their new mecha, which are sort of your Armored Core style mecha. Aliens invade. Their mecha aren't particularly good about it. And then a friendly mecha turns up and saves the day. And this thing, this Braven, is a lot. Because this one talks and has his own personality. And yeah, he's a strange one. To the point where he shows up and whenever he's actually winning a fight, he's blasting his own theme music and throwing his own logo all over the place, screaming out attack names, the whole bit. So yeah, the anime is a lot of fun. it's very weird and dumb in some places, and it kind of has just that little bit of susness going on through it, like well, not hot shots, Top Gun type susness going through it.
I don't know. I really liked Hot Shots.
Shots was great. Actually, it is probably closer to the Hot Shots level sus, because Hot Shots knew it was being sus and reveled in it, and pointed out just how stupid it was. So I recommend this one. It is a weird one. I'm not sure how it's going to end yet, because there's like they go out, aliens take over Earth, so they're liberating Japan and all of that, because of course they are. But you've got this ridiculous flamboyant mecha who's got very, very strange ideas about bonds, let's just say, and seems to be actively going out of his way to traumatize his own pilot. And he seems to make his own upgrades out of gunpla. I don't know what's going on there either. It's just weird. But beyond that, that's honestly my weeks. It's been a lot of work, a lot of actually going out and, doing physical real world stuff, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I'm just going to keep it short and sweet.
All right.
Oh, there's a treasure chest over there. Whee!
Paul, how much Hoyo stuff do you have in your week?
I don't have much of a week. Like it was rough as guts for me this week. Like I was doing 10, 11-hour shifts back to back to back to back to back. It's just everything has gone more or less haywire this week, because of a bunch of companies have woken up and realized they actually need to get started for the year. They can't stay on holiday forever. Most companies, after a shutdown, like a Christmas shutdown, have to do equipment validation when they come back to prove that their equipment does what it's supposed to do, as it was when they shut down.
Yep.
This basically means that they've got to do extensive rounds of testing until they can prove that not only does it work, but it's repeatable. So it seems like a whole bunch of companies woke up simultaneously, and as a result, we've got an absolute mountain of work to do, and I'm still trying to recover from all of the delays from the end of the year. So I've basically been rushed off my feet, and I don't know how long this is going to carry on. The audit process appears to have been somewhat brought forward to earlier in the year as well. So there's no mercy for me there either. It's just going to be fundamentally terrible. Yeah, I've been so busy I haven't really done much of anything. Normally it would be like, oh well, the Saturday night end of the work week for me would be gaming time, except that sort of I sat down at my desk and started to fall asleep, so I went to bed, and as soon as my head hit the pillow, I fell asleep for like 10 straight hours. So, and for me, sleeping for more than a few hours at a time is really difficult. I'm quite bad at sleeping. I wake up all the time, and I suffer from insomnia regularly. But I was just stone cold out for like 10 hours, which was interesting because I very rarely get to have extremely protracted dreams, which is what happened this time. So it was actually kind of entertaining in its own way, because normally I can't stay asleep long enough to dream much, if at all. But I was so exhausted this time that it was actually quite kind of lengthy and entertaining. But but yeah, as a result, I've done basically very little gaming. The most of my gaming that was done on Monday before work, which was when I did the ZZZ event. So RSD will finally be able to talk about it.
It's there's a lot of text in that event.
It is a long event. Every time I thought that it can't possibly be continuing, right? It can't possibly still be going. No, it's still
Yeah,
going.
when I said
Still
it
going.
ate
It's
it ate
happening.
all the event time and I didn't have time for Lantern Rite at all last week, I wasn't kidding.
Yeah, but so that was pretty much that ate the largest chunk of my time, and I haven't really done much of anything else, to be honest, because I've just been too tired all the time. There's not enough time after work to do anything, so
Oh
I
crap!
don't really have a week to speak of.
I can't get
other
up there
than
this
that.
time to turn off the thing.
I can't aim to save myself.
Okay.
I did
Weaker
not-
to the rescue.
I did not crit. I low rolled the crit.
Oh, do the thing. There we go. Oh, that's my resin gone.
You might need
So
to
yeah,
blow some fragile
Go on.
resin on getting talent books, Fern. What does Kanish need?
Kanish needs. I'll tell you in a moment.
Isn't his Mavwika more likely to be a pinch hitter at this point, though?
Probably, but it's not contention day.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Kanish needs kindlings.
Day kindling day.
I do not believe it is.
I think I
It is
still
not.
need a couple of kindlings.
It is conflict day. You need
Who even uses conflict? Is that Chaska?
Casca.
Is anybody else?
Shalona needs kindlings. I do need to do Barrett too, but I think he's also
Barrett? You mean
Barrett. Yes, he's Barrett now. Bennett. You know, the significantly worse and not less interesting character. Bennett needs Voyages, but those are also on the wrong day.
I still have an exclamation point on my Bennett, and I don't know what to do.
Is there a free blue ball to grab?
and it's
No.
the last constellation.
The 5 inches with me is waiting for me to enable it. And there's really no good reason for me not to, but unfortunately, I was provided with the knowledge that it is strictly worse in certain circumstances. But I think I will not be able to withstand the exclamation point much longer.
I have found a new thing to blame Bennett for. I've started blaming Nouvelette on Bennett.
Oh?
Because Bennett has made it so that until Mavwika, they could not make attack scaling characters just totally bananas, and HP scaling characters could go rampant, because it's just assumed that every single attack scaling character will have Bennett.
Yep.
And so that's how...
And Bennett still plays a role in the optimal team for Mavwika.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
So the upshot is... Oh no, it's not an upshot. It's just another thing for me to blame Bennett for.
Eh.
And then, until Mavwika, Bennett is the reason that HP scaling characters were king.
Right. I just found out that I can actually teleport with Kanish carrying one of the bomb fruit. I never knew that. But that probably only works in Natland though, because it's chewing up my Flostogen.
Can you do the...
I just find the image of Kanish using Aho as a gun hilarious.
Do not think about the mechanics of that.
Can you
I don't really want to.
Fern, can you do the highest level of the artifact domain yet?
Let me see. I should be able to. I'm at adventure rank 49 now.
Aho is a type of Yoshi, basically.
Type of Yoshi.
Yes, Aho is a Yoshi.
Let me teleport over there.
Better now.
I'm still kind of waiting for a Horror Awaken fight, just so you can slap him out around a bit.
It's over here, Fern.
Okay, I've actually got the keys for this gate over here too.
You don't want to go in there.
Yeah, there's a red ninja looking guy just on the outside there. He's probably going to get a bit stabby if I go through there.
There's a world boss here for 2 agent and has special moves, and will get us in a protracted fight.
Well, I don't know. You
Yeah.
can probably one shot it with Mavuika.
Yeah, probably now. Not as big a deal, but
Recommended Burning Gauntlet 4 is the highest one for this, isn't it?
yeah, as long as you can do the 4, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Because that'll get you the orange. I'm going to change my Weaker out for Bennett. Because Bennett...
Don't worry about it. Pillows and sharks will take care of it. Not as
Pillows
fast
and sharks.
Not as fast as pillows and motorcycles, but
True.
There's an artist on Twitter who's doing sort of like fan art of inversions of Genshin characters. So there's like one where Aho is the human and Kinich is the sidekick, one where Shaki is the human and Moelani is the sidekick, etc.
That sounds
They're quite-
incredibly strange.
They're quite good. So I don't know if I can find it though, because I don't remember the artist's name.
Are you going to press the button, Vol?
Oh, right. Hold on. I was tabbed out.
There we go. Dude,
yeah, don't leave domain afterwards. I would blow some fragile resin on this, Fern, to get you some.
and Stoof. I think well, actually, no, I don't have Mavuika's artifacts. I haven't even looked at what she needs.
You gonna touch the key, Fern?
I can touch the key if you're ready.
Come in and immediately touch.
Touched. Yeah, I'm at adventure rank 49. I think I'm about to hit 50.
Yeah, 50, you'll actually be able to come into our worlds.
Yeah.
Even though you're still one world level below, they made an exception for 8 to 9.
Because that jump is a bit too steep to reasonably expect people to go over most of the time.
About 6 months of consistent dailies and doing all the quests.
It's a bit much, yeah.
I mean consistent dailies too. Every single day, you can't miss a single day.
Yeah, I get bored of dailies after a day. That's how dailies work, right? You do them once and then you don't think about them again.
Anyway, interrupted
See
the.
why Hoyo backed off of Frozen so much.
Yeah, because they
It
don't.
is
Even...
These poor guys aren't even really a threat. They may have a lot of health, but
They don't get a turn.
Yay. Yeah. I think they went too far the other way, though.
yeah,
So-
Frozen really doesn't do anything anymore in anything of note.
Yeah.
So this is the highest rank one, is it?
Yes. Number 4. Actually, I think that's the hip crit. That's actually probably going to be an upgrade for Kinich. There we go.
You'll probably get a lot of upgrades if you have from this place.
I've
Also-
found a bit of it. It's just that the stats on that relic are probably better than the one I've got.
Anyway, I interrupted Vol's
I got
week.
trip-
What that up?
Freaking triple flat stats. That's what I got. Triple flat stats. Oops, I left domain.
Yeah, that's okay. I did too. So come on out.
See, let's do a compare and contrast just to see how you'll have to put in it in. Can't double up inside domains.
Yep.
Anyway, Vol, I interrupted you to try and figure out what to do with Fern.
Well, the thing, like I said, I don't have anything to talk about because I didn't have any time to do much other than sleep this week. Like I literally spent more time at work than I did at home. So I'm just generally in a state of abject misery right now, sort of thing.
You are
You
in,
need a new job.
You are in
Or
Missouri.
at least a holiday.
I am not, nor have I ever been in Missouri.
Now I have Reese's Puffs stuck in my head again.
Please no.
There is now a full
I have
version
no-
of the Reese's Puff song
I have no desire to eat him up.
But
eat
why
him up,
though?
Eat him up, eat him up.
because it's a mashup of 3 different songs, and one of them is Maroon 5's "Misery." So we've all said he was in misery. I'm like, oh no, Reese's Puffs.
What have people been putting on Mavwiko? Cinder City?
The black
Usually
one.
the black and blue one.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Because it does not matter at all what the how'd you lead domain vol?
Yeah, it's a force of habit.
Oh, yep.
Because
Okay,
for a
good.
long time I ran a team that would finish a domain in about 3 seconds, but it would also be on 50% health when it did. That was my standard team for a long time, so leaving domain to go back to the Statue of 7 has been my standard reaction.
Yeah. The black set you can run the other set on Malvika if you want, but just the damage she gains from popping on field to do her ultimate. From the black set, it makes up for it more than makes up for any kind of benefit you would get from the other set. And if you're running her in a Natlan team, somebody else is going to be running the other set, namely Zalonin.
Well, that's the problem with the Kanich, Shilonen, and Mavwika set. All 3 are using Obsidian Codex.
Yeah, well, that's how Natlan characters work. There are 2. If you are a Natlan character, you are using one of these 2 sets.
Yeah, there's not
Either
really any
Obsidian
other
Codex
options.
or Cinder City. That's it.
I've seen people arguing for that black one from Somaru on certain characters.
The Elemental Mastery one, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the only one I've seen people bring in as an alternative.
And usually it's because somebody else is applying the Cinder City effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't really stack them. Like running, like it kind of. There's a lot of characters that make set to run Cinder City on, but oftentimes you're going to have more than one, so it's not really
no,
much to be done
Shilonen.
about that.
No, that's fine. Never mind. I just checked, and I've got Shilonen set up on Cinder City at the moment, so that works.
Yeah, she should always be on Cinder City. Practically tailor-made for her.
Yeah.
That's been the sort of the thing I'm currently trying to figure out what to do, because I usually have Shilonen and Sitlali on the same team, so it doesn't really make a huge amount of sense to try and stack them. So
Fern bailout.
Oh, did you goofed?
No, Vol wasn't out. Oh. Left instead of continuing. If you wait 10 seconds after we open the flower, you can just take.
Yes. But I can't do that if someone leaves the domain.
Yeah, press start and hit leave.
I just gotta wait for the timer to run out. Because it doesn't let you just leave immediately. It's gotta wait, make you wait 30 seconds.
Let me leave immediately. Did you touch the key?
Nope.
I didn't leave until RSDL said that I was supposed to.
I noticed Fern had left. So I followed him out, and then Fern requeued. And I readied, not watching where you were.
Okay. Let's try that again. Doop. Doop.
Yeah, because Zalonin is on so many teams now. She's basically got Cinder City covered. So if you run 3 Natlan characters with Zalonin on the team, there's some argument, like if you have Sitlali as another off-fielder support, you said, but
Yeah.
like,
The other weird one I've seen is for this team setup is to put Nahida's set on Bennett, which is kind of weird. I see where they're coming from, but I honestly don't see the benefit being better than what you can get elsewhere.
because Bennett's only job is to
drop his circle and get off the field.
So he can just apply the effect from
from Nahita's set.
And then he's off, and Nahita can run a full elemental mastery set instead.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another way you can build this team. But because I've got Obi-Wan, and except for Mavwika's weapon, because that never came up for me. Yeah, I think my team's in pretty good shape at this point.
Good grief. What are the odds of repeatedly getting triple flat stats every time?
In your case, almost certain.
Why is my luck so perfectly inverted?
The RNG god hates you so much. I don't know what you did, but yeah. Actually, after this one, I'll just quickly check where my experience bar is, because I should be coming up on 50 very soon.
Yeah, if you can get to 50, just go do the rank up quest, and you can our worlds, and we can proper trials.
Yeah.
I got one hourglass that's very offense oriented for the brown set.
Nice.
It's incredible.
Maybe I should just run Obsidian Codex on Sitlali and just play her as an on-fielder. This is not working. I don't know what that's supposed to equip. I've seen people do it, but usually for the lulls.
I am about 75% of the way through Adventure Rank 49.
It's still going to take a wee while then. Not a huge amount of time, but it's not going to happen today.
I would, in fact, if that's the case, we should go to whatever trials domains.
We should go and kill Doggo, yes.
Kill Doggo and beat up. Probably beat up Jeff, because you will have a character that will need Jeff at some point.
Yeah, they seem to like to call back to Jeff.
Oh, Fern hasn't got to experience Jeff yet.
I have not, actually, no.
That multiplayer Jeff is the stupidest thing on the planet.
Yeah, some fights are just designed to be done with one person.
And Jeff is one of them. Whoops. Motorcycle and forest does not mix. When you hit a tree with a motorcycle, you're not supposed to just continue straight up the tree.
As you do. All right. So we'll go Jeff, beat up a child, and then go... Or no, we'll go dog, or child, Jeff. Okay, so...
Yeah, we're already at dog.
Two of those.
Dog. When are they going to put a teleport point next to Doggo?
Don't know.
Never.
Probably. Maybe if the portable waypoints lasted more than a week, I'd consider plonking one down next to him.
You do Doggo that often?
Yeah, every week.
Every week.
The thing is that there's like a million characters that need Doggo parts because everything in 1.0 and 2.0 does.
Yeah, plus the transmutation items. What is it called? Dream Solvent.
Well, all the bosses can drop that, but you only get a discount on 3 bosses per week.
Mm-hmm.
Though there are plenty of people who do all the bosses every week. Though I don't think I fancy the idea of doing Senora that often.
This is not a good fight.
I did that this week. It dumped all my resin on weekly bosses because I exhausted my dream solvent supply and needed to try and restock.
Senora. That's not a good fight.
It's just not. It's really not a good fight.
Did make for some fast resin dumping.
Oh wait, can I even apply cryo to this thing? Will it do anything?
That's an interesting question.
It's level 80.
I should
throw pillows.
Yeah, but it does.
It'll be fine.
We can try and see what happens.
It'll be fine.
It's just an ice doggo, that's all.
Get out of the way. You're ruining the cutscene.
Back it with pillows. Yeah, you can apply credit to it.
Does it take bonus damage from melt? Oh, I guess it does.
Oh, and there's no telling who he locks onto. It's random every time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
everybody should spread out as much as possible.
I'm intentionally trying to get you guys hit.
Well, I mean, as much as possible to make it as much of a game of Russian roulette as possible.
Oh, I
There
see.
you go.
The maximum amount of battlefield can be hit if we spread out. If everybody's gathered together, it makes it easy to dodge.
But yeah, so
I stand here and gormlessly stare at him for a moment. That's fine.
all right. Active Genshin talk mostly progress now. Let's see here. There we go. Dead dog.
Poof. Dog went poof.
Lead dog. Okay, to child. So, I guess if you don't have much more in your week, Paul, I will jump into mine because I've got some stuff I can do. I'm going to need a visual aid.
Oh boy.
Dun dun dun.
I sent Fern mine.
You know how much money governments the world over poured into promoting anti-smoking in schools, RSDL.
Well, they're about to be countered. So in live show chat, I'm just going to.
Did you guys have that DARE program?
Uh-huh. Thank Nixon
Yeah, I
for
think
that
that was
one.
an international thing, that one.
I'll be switching to a very specific character for Jeff. All right, we'll start with those.
Right, let's beat up child.
Child, I don't care about. HP. Plus, anyway.
Child throws whales.
No, I won't.
Wales.
No, he won't. Doesn't even get that far. And he's dead.
No, we got one more phase.
We've got Edgelord face.
Whee!
Poor guy.
Now he's dead.
I like how in Rothler's videos, it's just whenever a new character is released, make the character able to one-shot child.
This is your standard threshold. Okay, this is how damage is done.
Just because almost every DPS character has some wackadoodle build that'll let them one-shot child.
What child? I mean, I would say, what did he do? But we know what he did.
Made toys. What are you talking about? He's obviously
All
a
right.
toy maker, toy seller.
Okay, I'll just move the remaining images real quick.
Yep.
And Fern, and then we will go to Jeff. I got 3 more.
Can we even fight Jeff?
Could be able to fight Jeff. The reason why we wouldn't be able to fight Jeff. We do it every week, or we did it every week for quite a while. Okay, all the pictures are moved into live.
You don't need to do any wild and wacky unlocks for him?
I just finished Simura's story.
Okay. Oh, no, yeah, we're good.
I'm in the loading screen, but yeah. All right, Vol, you need to get your appropriate character for this boss fight.
Oh,
We have to
no,
do
what
it
are we
as
doing?
clownishly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if you insist. Oh, well, the thing is, we normally bring multiple. Like, I mean, I don't know. Are we going to do this Bloom styles? Is that what we're doing?
Oh, no.
I don't know how I'm going to keep my health up. Everything I'm going to do is
You
gonna drain
have
all my health.
Barbara.
Also,
Yeah, but you always miss me with your heals, so I die.
Yeah. Also, every time we're on one of those menus, all I'm hearing is random Milani noises.
She
Ow,
does like to yap.
She's not here. Can't hurt
Doesn't
you.
matter.
She's yapping wherever she is.
She is a yapper. Navi is the queen yapper, though.
That's probably the
Yeah.
wrong spot to put that, but you know what? Screw it.
I haven't put enough points into my auto attack, and it's all I can do.
So, this week, I did not do much of. Come on,
Hirsch.
stupid bunny. I did not do much diverse gameplay here. I basically just continued what I did last week in VR and logged on for a token amount to do Hoyo dailies. I did this weekend while Vol was doing the ZZZ event, do the Genshin Lantern Rite event. So we can talk about that in a bit. I'll get to Genshin last though, because what more people can jump to. Let's see. First, well, the only other thing is VR. Specifically, one game in VR called Into the Radius, which I had a surprising amount of fun with for what it was. I can't get to it. Getting froze. Does shield just not scale with?
No.
I can't help you here, guys.
Yeah. Okay,
I
Fern.
can't actually do damage.
Fern, all you.
It's
You
all
gotta.
you.
You gotta do it by yourself.
Oh, great. I can't do a whole lot else either. I shoot this thing, though.
Yeah, shoot these. You need to break all of them with Dendro. I wonder if Barbara can survive the explosion. Wait, get the last one. Fire!
There we go. We got him.
Yeah. Up onto the platform.
That section is the reason we've had to come up with such stupid teams for this in the past. Because it's
Okay, Goon squatter up. Auto attack time.
okay, the blooms will get him. They're all about
Blooms
to go.
everywhere. Look at all those blooms. We don't have a Nailu though.
One of us has to get. I need to get Nailu one time when she's up. I might pay for her. We'll see.
She's an absolute sweetheart. It's a shame that we haven't had a chance to pull for her. But she's always on the wrong banners.
Yeah.
So, VR stuff. Into the Radius is a VR game made by, I mentioned it a little bit last week.
Made by chain smokers.
Made by
Yes.
a chain-smoking autistic gun nut in Russia.
Who really, really likes Stalker a lot.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
it
could
is.
just did a Russian.
Yeah, it wears its stalker influence proudly. Everything from anomalies in the zones to the general vibe. The take Stalker and make it VR with over the top gun nut autism, and throw in quite a bit more of an isolation feeling than a Stalker game, and you get Into the Radius.
Yeah.
It's but yeah,
That's fun.
it is a lot of fun. If you just like exploring cool, wacky, trippy post-apocalyptic worlds and fighting dudes and seeing what new upgrades for your gun can do and how the gunplay is different for all the guns as you unlock them, it's a great time. I've really been surprised how much I enjoy the game. And progressing through the guns, because you get better and better guns as you complete main story missions, and finding out better ways to engage things and better ways to shoot in VR. It's just a lot of fun. And that's something I touched on when I mentioned Alex before. But Into the Radius is the first game in VR that I played where how you shoot matters. Because in the game, you don't have... A bunch of guns have stocks in real life, we'll say. And if you need to shoot
Yes.
something at medium range, you can brace the gun against your shoulder to keep it steady. In VR, they have a virtual stock option in this game, and it works a little bit. But if you want to hit something more than about 150 meters away, you need to be really careful with your shots, or you need to you need to find something to lean against, or get on your knees or something to keep that gun as steady as possible. It does have a focus option as well to hold down another button with your offhand if you're two-handed the gun. But it just that's not as fun as physically bracing yourself to fire the gun from sniping distance. I've found, and just finding all kinds of cool tricks to do that and what attachments to use, and just general gun autism. It's just a ton of fun in that game. And I'm not normally one for gun autism, but this game makes it just a lot of fun because all the attachments and all the different ways you can use the weapons and all the various different types of weapons, they all just have very tangible effects on the gameplay. And you can feel how each little thing is doing things differently. And it's just a lot of fun. Like I mentioned before in when I talked about Alex, the laser pointer is a colossal upgrade when you can get it for a gun. It's also stupidly expensive because it makes mid-range engagements really, really easy compared to how they were before, because you can shoot from the hip and know you're actually going to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And you start the game with just a little, like a P9 or something, some little dinky 8-round magazine piece of trash pistol.
It goes pew pew. That's it.
It's in Russia, right? So it'll be a Tokarov, wouldn't it?
That's the next step up.
That's the Tokarov is a step up from something.
Yes.
Oh my!
This thing is garbage. And next you unlock the next tier of pistols in your first rifle, and the sawed off version of the I forget what it is. It's like the TZHL 87 shotgun. You get the sawed off variant, which is terrible. And you get your next pistols are like the Tokarev, which is terrible, and the Glock, which is terrible, but it has a giant magazine in it. You can put 17 round magazines on that thing. And
boring when a handgun gets to spray and pray territory.
I remember the first time I was very, very small. The first time I was at like a camp or something. You know how kids go on camps, and one of the myriad completely unrelated and disconnected activities at this camp was that there was a cop came to talk to us about all the different equipment in a standard cop's kit, and my father was serving as one of the sort of the camp counselor types, and he was when he was an old school hunter who used like an Enfield 303 for everything, right? Everything. That was like the only gun anybody needed. And when the cop introduced his Glock, my father was incredulous and assumed that the massive magazine capacity of the Glock must be a representation of the typical marksmanship quality of the New Zealand police.
It is apparently also a mark of on the Glock itself, because that thing is inaccurate as crap past like 10 meters. You have you only want that thing for close range engagements, because
Austrian gun made of plastic.
Yeah, it doesn't even have most other games in the game have a safety you have to manually toggle on and off, and it's usually a good idea to put the safety on if you're doing all kinds of pocket shenanigans so you don't accidentally shoot yourself in the foot.
Yep.
But the Glock doesn't have a safety. It has a trigger safety. This means you can't toggle it on and off.
I think that there are I think Glock variants might exist that have had the safety introduced, but generally speaking, the Glock doesn't have a safety.
This sounds
this has got a weird
unwise.
Weird little extra lever on the trigger that prevents it from going off.
So, not only could I not hit anything with the stupid gun, I also wound up shooting myself in the foot all the time.
So yeah, like a real Glock.
Yeah, it's just a piece of trash gun that's better than the absolute garbage that you start with, just to use as a sidearm. The first rifle you get that I used was the SKS. I did not use the sawed-off shotgun very much. It's just buckshot at that point in the game is too expensive relative to the other ammo that's available, and it's too much of a pain in the butt to load, and buckshot does not do that much damage from a sawed-off shotgun, and the spread is so huge on it that you cannot hit anything with it. So I opted out of that and instead used the trusty SKS rifle. 10-round mag.
Like the SKS is like everybody has an SKS. Like they're like one of the. I would say they're probably the most common civilian hunting rifle. Either the SKS or the Chinese copy of the SKS, which is the Type 56. I don't know. The Chinese always give numbers to their guns, and that's all. So I'm not really sure. I think it's the Type 56. But yeah, they're like when my father graduated from using a 303 for everything, it was to an SKS copy because the ammo is cheap as chips.
Yes, it is. That's the other benefit to the SKS. Apparently, you used to be able to put a bayonet on it, and they had to remove that feature because it was too OP in the game. So you just have the rifle. The only downside is the base iron sights and even the attachments you can get for it are not particularly good. And the so it'll fall off pretty quick, and its penetration is awful for armored targets.
That's why the ammo is so cheap.
Yeah. So you can get armor-piercing ammo for it, but the gun itself has such bad base penetration that you're not gonna make much progress.
Yeah, there's sort of a stereotype that Russian ammunition doesn't so much fly towards the target as tumble wildly through the air towards the target.
Yeah. So, what else do you unlock at that level? I did not use it, but I did find a PPSH submachine gun, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm already going through bullets like crazy with my Glock missing all the time and my SKS rifle. So I don't think we'll be using the submachine gun just to hose money away. So I let that one go, and proceeded to the next security level, where I unlocked the TT-33 pistol, which was quite a bit better than the Glock, but not as. Oh, apparently the G18 custom with the safety on it is unlocked at this level too. Looking at the gun chart. But I did not buy that one after my experience with the G17.
They must have really wanted that safety.
Yeah. So the TT-33, however, is an incredibly accurate pistol, with all kinds of scope attachments on it, with the slowest fire rate in the world, and seems to break down all the time. But it worked. I quickly replaced it at the next security level. So sidearm got upgraded, and I switched from the SKS to an M4, M4 rifle, which
the most boring rifle in the world.
Yeah, it is boring, but gets the job done, and is the first real gun you can get your hands on. And given that I was going into an area with heavily armored enemies, I needed something that could punch through armor with armor-piercing rounds. And this gun had a 70% chance to punch through armor with its rounds, so.
Something which a real M4 probably would not do.
No. No, and it was also stupid expensive to get the armor-piercing rounds for it. So, thankfully, at the next security level, that got replaced immediately. But with 2 rifles that I kept swapping between because they were both fun. Actually, 3 rifles.
You keep talking about the gunplay, but you haven't said anything about what you're shooting at.
Okay, so most of the enemies are humanoid enemies of some description. You have your standard Shambling type shadow monsters that you shoot them, and then they after you do enough damage to kill them, either with a perfect center and mass shot, instead of you don't hit those in the head, critical damage. You can either shoot the core that appears, or run up to it and stab it with your knife, and it'll kill that thing for good. The other common type of enemy is the spawn, which I'll talk more about later, but they're basically fast little spider enemies that hop at you when they see you. The main bulk of the enemies are called mimics, where they will mimic some form of armed personnel, a police officer, a commando. There's like various different ones from the military, from the Russian military that have all kinds of different weapons, snipers, etc. There's about 5 or 6 different variants of those, and they each come in an armored version as well. So you have the basic and the armored one, and then you've got back to the fantastical monsters. You've got the slider, which is if you put a halo over Slenderman and gave him the creepiest looking eyeballs in the world, and had him teleport instead of walk every 2 seconds, and if he gets in melee range, he just clobbers your face off for half your health. That's a slider. So these are important. These don't come armored, thankfully, but you need a gun that can drop them in two headshots from a medium range, and you need to have a good accuracy one as soon as they start showing up, because they usually come in packs of 3, and you need to drop all 3 of them before one of them gets too close to you. And you'll just see them jump about 10 to 15 meters every teleport, closing the distance very quickly every 2 seconds, and you need to be able to go pop and drop one. And that covers the basic enemies that you'll run into. The game is it has a lot of replay value, but it does not have a particularly diverse list of fantastical monsters. The sequel does. The sequel has a lot more, because the Into the Radius 2 is in early access right now. I have not got it yet, and I will wait till the game comes out in full to play it. But it's been so the enemy list is kind of where it's lacking there. There's obstacles in the anomalies that you have to navigate through in the Radius. You'll find anomaly fields with clusters of them. The basic type is the distortion anomalies that pulse like this little distorted air-looking effect. This makes a whoa noise, and they glow blue a little bit in a big giant circle, about as long as an adult male's arm span in length in a circle. And you've got ones that are similar to those, except they are, if you step in those, you don't take damage, you get knocked back. The worst ones are the lightning anomalies. So in Stalker, if you played Stalker and remember the anomalies from that game, you may recall there is a box of bolts you can carry around to chuck at the anomalies to trigger them, find out where they are, and get past some of them. The exact same concept is here in this game. Like, just taken straight out of Stalker. You carry around a bag of probes, and you can put it, I recommend putting it on something that's easy to access, like your shoulder, like your arm pocket. And as soon as you encounter a field of anomalies, just pull that probe sack out and start flicking little metal bits in there to see where the anomalies trigger, so that you don't get caught up on them. The lightning ones in particular are annoying because they're very, very hard to see, and you have no idea how big their range is. And they also are not a circle. Where they can zap is very difficult to find out. You basically just have to keep chucking probes at it and try and map out the outer perimeter of it and snake your way around it. In the sequel, they have made them much more visible visually instead of having to look for the crackle sound or listen for the crackle sound to roughly tell where they are and throw probes all the time. But they're one of the obstacles. There's a few special stage-specific obstacles. The funniest one is the Stomper, which is just this ground effect of this invisible giant something that's walking across the map. You can't engage with whatever's making the Stompy, but it'll just flatten everything it walks across, including enemies. And so, getting the Stomper's attention, because it moves very slow, and walking to the other side of a bunch of enemies and watching the Stomper just go squish them all is really funny. You also have, the last zone has the BTR. Ibu's already played through the game, and he was watching me because I had it streaming while I was playing, and I got to the last zone for the first time. It's technically the second to last zone, because the final dungeon I have not done yet, but it is unlocked and ready to go. There is a giant tank, and I'm sitting behind a rock after taking out a field of armored enemies. pulling out my ammo boxes and reloading all my magazines, and I just hear an engine on the other side of the rock. Like, what's that? That doesn't sound good. And I finished reloading my magazines, saved the game. This was a mistake. And poke my head out from around the rock, and there's a effing tank. And
Just chilling?
it has aggroed onto me and coming at me
no.
with an automatic turret on top of it. And this thing will chase you down if it sees you for the entirety of the final zone. So the entire final zone, in addition to have to do normal mission stuff, you have to avoid this tank. And thankfully, it's once you see it and know it exists, its aggro is fairly easy to figure out. It's got a giant searchlight that spins in a circle, and it follows a regular patrol path. And you cannot be spotted by the searchlight, otherwise it'll go, what's that? And start rolling its way over to you. Now, thankfully, the tank is also a little stupid. Well, it's quite stupid. In that it will chase you down no matter where you are, and this means the tank will go off-road. And the tank is not very good with indestructible trees that are in its way. And so if you run into the woods, the tank will get stuck. So I don't know what's waiting for me in the final area, if there's more enemy types or special obstacles there, but it says be prepared for a combat challenge in big red warning letters. So we'll see how that goes for the very last zone once I step into it. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun with that. Continuing on with the real fun guns, because security level 4 is where you get the super fun ones. You have the standard. I've linked the 2 guns I use for my main loadout. Yeah, there you go, Serathus. You know what it is. Which is, well, I linked the security level 5 rifle I'm using, but I got the Beretta M9, which is just the standard go-to consistently good pistol. If you just need
But it's Italian.
It is, but the thing never breaks, never jams, and is actually accurate, and you can put a proper sight and scope on it. And the silencers for it are not too expensive because they use NATO silencers. And those, while they wear out super fast, are super cheap. And by super cheap, I mean way too expensive, but if you run a gun unsuppressed, suppressors in this game do a flat loudness reduction of 1/2. And loudness is the stat on a gun that determines how far away enemies will aggro after you fire. So if you run a really loud gun unsuppressed, like the Nagant, which I was experimenting with for a bit, or the M4, you will be halfway across the zone, and people at the train station from zone entrance will aggro and come try and eat your face.
There's a loud gun.
They are very loud guns.
It's kind of legendary for number one, for being extremely loud, and for number 2, having enough recoil to dislocate your shoulder and then relocate it again with the next shot.
Yeah, the gun is a cannon of a sniper rifle. It is a lot of fun to use, just don't miss when the hordes of enemies are coming to get you. Because, oh boy, they come in as soon as you shoot that thing once. And the thing,
say goodbye to your bones.
The thing is, in fact, so good and so accurate, and you can put the best scopes on it. But the problem is, and what I found with this game is the render distance, even cranked up all the way to the max, is not enough to take advantage of the Nagant. Stuff just doesn't get that far away. So you can't get the real sniper experience with it, unfortunately. I've heard they fixed that in the sequel though.
It's not even a sniper rifle. Like there are sniper variants, but like the sniper rifle, the classic Soviet sniper rifle is really the SVD, but
that's an option.
Dragunov, but the Nagant is sort of, it's such an ubiquitous rifle that it's sort of achieved legendary status.
It's also just a ton of fun to mess with because it's not as good as the SVD or the other sniper that you get at that tier in terms of shots per minute or loudness. The only thing it's got is raw damage and the punch it has. Yeah. But it's a bolt action rifle. So you have to pull the what you call it? I'm brain farting. Help me out here, Vol.
Well, I don't. My mind wandered for a moment, and now you've left me flat-footed.
The bolt on the M9. No, not the M9.
What about it?
The bolt on the Nagant. You've got to rack it every single shot because it's
Yeah, it was a bolt-action rifle.
doing this in VR
So-
is so much fun. That even though
Yeah,
it's
it's like-
inefficient,
There's a thing. There's a thing. What's it called? There's a nickname for it. Obrez, the Obrez. An Obrez is a Nagant that has been, shall we say, cut down to pistol size. It has had the stock cut off and the barrel cut off, and it's still bolt action.
I see.
So you're holding it in one hand, and it's because of the position of the bolt, it has to be the left hand, regardless of whether you're right or left-handed. So you're holding it in your left hand and furiously trying to fire it, and then twist the bolt and then fire it again while it furiously breaks your wrist, since you can't brace the.
It punches a
the
hole in your own
shocking-
chest.
Yeah, it's a rifle. It's a sawn-off rifle that is a joke, basically, but it's something that actually existed.
Sounds like an absolute death trap, that thing. And not necessarily for the person who's in front of the gun either.
If you
Oh
come-
yeah, you usually you fire it once and then it flies across the room, sort of thing.
If it doesn't break your nose
yeah.
and or wrists.
But it is a ton of fun to shoot in VR. It just is not a very practical gun. So, I got the Nagant for free because I found it in the factory and cleaned it up and repaired it myself with my brush WD-40 and clean and rod, and this magically fixes the gun. Because you do have to maintain your magazines and guns, otherwise they will start jamming on you. And the one I found in the factory was not too effed up. So I stuck it in my vise and got the fake WD-40 out and got my toothbrush and started scrubbing. And got that thing back to pristine condition and played with it for a bit, and it was fun. But it was just not a practical rifle. And the ammo was also insanely expensive. So I decided to get experimental and went with innately suppressed rifles, so I didn't have to pay to repair a silencer for my security level 4 gun. And tried and got both a OC-14 Groza and a Val. No, I got a VSS Ventores. I didn't get the Val. And these guns are 9x39 ammo is relatively not as expensive as some of the other high tier ammo. And the guns themselves have ridiculous armor penetration. They also come innately silenced, which means that you're not going to draw as much attention when you shoot the dumb things, and you don't have to pay to repair a silencer. However, they have a caveat. They are powerful, armor-piercing, and silent. But their bullet velocity is butts. Which means, if a target is more than about 200 meters away, you've got to lob all your shots. and I got a stupid amount of fun just trying to lob shots into headshots with these
Honestly,
stupid guns.
With that gun, here's a better solution. Open the gun, take the bullet out, and throw it at the enemy.
Well, the bullet penetration effect comes from the gun itself. It's the gun plus the ammo. And and you need armor piercing in the late game. Full Metal Jacket basically becomes inviable for any gun that doesn't have 80+% natural pin in it, and there's like 2 of those in the game, and one of them is Nagant. So I had a ton of fun lobbing bullets with this thing. Also picked up a Deagle, but did not upgrade it. But it was fun goofing around with the giant hand cannon, just blowing people to pieces. But expensive ammo, hard to maintain. Really, really funny, and really, really, really powerful. But loud as crap, expensive to maintain, and the ammo was not cheap. So I abandoned the Deagle and went back to the M9, which I'm still using now. And then I unlocked security level 5, and you only get one new rifle unlocked then, and it's the FN-17 Scar, which is insanely expensive, but is bar none the best rifle in the game. It's a little loud, but that's its only drawback. Even suppressed, that thing has like a loudness multiplier like 1.8, and the Nagant has 3.5 for comparison. But it is a fun gun to just go back to the lower zones with now that you're at the end of the game and just tear everything apart. You'll like two-shot everything that doesn't have armor, one-shot it with a headshot, and just one-shot all the really baby tier enemies with it. It's a lot of fun. Expensive to maintain, but you're at the end of the game at this point, so there's nothing really left to spend money on unless you really just want to try out the other guns, which I did for some of them, but not all of them. I linked somewhere in there. You can see my collection of guns. Yeah, subsonic ammo is special, and you can buy it for most guns. For the Val and the VSS, they actually don't have subsonic ammo. They just have AP and Full Metal Jacket. And you want the armor piercing variant. But yeah, I don't know why either it has so much armor penetration on it. I tried to look it up, and people are like, yeah, that makes sense on it, but I have no idea why. Zarathos. But yeah, they do, even though their bullet velocity is super slow. Okay. You say so.
Well, ballistics is sort of a sorcerous art, really.
Yeah. So,
I mean, when it comes to anything, like, it's going to come down to hardness, right? You can pierce armor with a knife if the knife is hard enough and you've got enough oomph behind it. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be fast.
A bullet by its nature is going to fire it out of a gun. It's going to have a goodly bit of oomph. It's all on the type of ammo.
The question is, what is it designed to do? Is it designed to mushroom? Is it designed to fragment? Is it designed to tumble? Like, projectiles are designed for different things. So
yeah, and 9x39 ammo is apparently specifically built to be subsonic armor piercing ammo. Just by its nature, it comes in it, so it doesn't even have a special subsonic category. So yeah, I've had just a ton of fun with this, and the other part of the game that I've really enjoyed, that isn't the actual gameplay, is autistically organizing my base. I have pictures.
yeah, he was like super enthusiastically telling me about this incredible feature for autistically organizing his base. I had no idea what he was talking about.
So, third picture, first post in the live show chat. You will notice how like I have the single packages for each bullet type floating over the big boxes of ammo for that type. If you put an object down that is interactable by the player, it will freeze in place after 10 seconds, so you can stack interactable objects on top of each other and then remove the middle ones to make crap float. And you can also do this to make sure that once you get something where you want it, and you don't want it to move, it never moves again until you pick it back up. No amount of force will pull that thing down. So, you may also notice there is a survival, in air quotes, component of this game, where you have to keep your stamina up. Otherwise, you won't be able to sprint for as long, and you'll move slower, and it's all bad for you. You could eat food and sleep like a normal person to get your stamina back, or you could do it like an Into the Radius player, which means you chain smoke. Which is why you see cigarettes in those pictures, because I forgot I had one stuck in my mouth. It's at a point where Abo didn't know about smoking. He did not know this was a thing you could do. And he tabbed in my stream one time. He's like, "Are you smoking while trying to look through your scope? The smoke's getting in the way." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's fine. I'm getting my stamina back."
Spoken like a true addict.
Yeah.
So if you want to
listen, Aristotle, you've gone to a lot of trouble to quit smoking. Please don't be encouraged to go back to it because you think you can get your stamina back.
That's kind of the opposite of how smokes work.
If your name is Explorer 61, then chain smoking reduces the need for sleep, reduces hunger, and allows you to sprint for longer.
Well, yes, this is how they marketed cigarettes, but that doesn't happen in real life.
I don't know. Maybe it happens to Russians. They might have superpowers, I guess.
So,
Most
yeah.
of those are invoked by consumption of vodka, not cigarettes.
Ah, yes.
So, anytime you see any screenshot of me playing the game, or if you happen to watch me streaming it, you will see a cigarette in my character's mouth. In fact, this has become like the meme for the Into the Radius community at large.
You just chain smoke like a chimney.
I posted the Elmo meme live show chat. And the last thing of note is that this game is not at all like the original version of the game. Into the Radius was originally basically made by one guy, and he had no idea how to optimize anything or what proper game design was, and it was just an autistic Stalker light with crazy gun mechanics.
He just stuck what he liked in it.
Yeah, it was basically your typical VR sandbox that there are a dime a dozen of. But over time, it got updated and turned more and more into a proper game. And in this game, there's one of the spider-like enemies that I mentioned before, the spawns. These guys are, you can hear them coming, and they make a very distinctive noise that's hard to describe. And they're very small. They only come up to about your ankles, and are about, if you spread them out leg to leg, would be as wide as like your character's waist to your foot. So relative to the other enemies, they're pretty tiny, and they die in like one bullet of anything that isn't a pistol. In the original version in 1.0, there was one spawn that was bugged right near the entrance of the zone after you left base, and he would follow you around and hop at you once, and then just resume following you around. But he never did any damage to you when he hit you, so he would just follow you around. And
It's a little buddy.
So he became a mascot of sorts for the early version of the game called Pecho, named after the Petrotsky zone that you're in. And so Pecho the spawn, or Pecho the spider, became a meme, and the devs refused to fix the bug as long as 1.0 was there. The game eventually had to be reworked quite a bit for a 2.0 launch, because they wanted to make it a proper game instead of just a sandbox. And this necessitated redoing the entire map and breaking the map up from one ginormous map of the Radius into 5 separate levels, as it were. Each one fairly large, but not as much to render or strain on the GPU while you're playing. Like, it'll take you a full 10-15 minutes to run from one side of the zone to the other from any of these given 5 zones.
Right.
Yeah, they're pretty chunky. Now, all of these used to be interconnected with even more places to go in one big giant map. There are still routes between them you can take, and you can spawn in 3 of them. There's only one of the main questing zones does not have a shortcut to it from the base. Yeah, they're quite huge. But this necessitated a rework, and this meant Pecho had to go, because Pecho was a quirk of the map, not the spawn enemy itself. So Pecho got murdered.
Oh.
But Pecho has been immortalized in the form of collectible plushies you can find around the map.
Yeah, you showed me those plushies, and it's basically a spider with googly eyes on it. But
yeah,
that thing's seen some stuff.
So that is the only.
It's cute.
He is cute
in a Australian sort of way.
Yeah, kinda. So that's Into the Radius. I'll report back on the finale briefly next week, but overall, it gets a solid recommendation. We're looking at about, in its current state, using Alex again as the top game out of 10, solid, somewhere between probably an 8.
That's pretty good.
If there's a caveat to it, which is why it's only an 8, you have to really enjoy the experience of playing with different guns. The missions can be quite repetitive. And in fact, a bunch of the missions not randomized, but there's a pool they pull from of types, and there's about 30 different variants of each type. So a goodly selection it can pull from when it randomly pulls the repeatable missions that you use just to grind money or to progress. You have to do a certain number of side missions of those before you can progress the main story, just to force you to go explore the more difficult areas a bit more thoroughly. That is a long wall of text I'm not going to read on the show. I'll read it.
Keep going to read it on the show. It's supporting information.
Okay, I'll check it out after the show. But yeah, it gets a solid recommend. The second game is apparently really good single player. They're still
It has co-op now, though, doesn't it?
yeah.
The second one.
Here's the catch to the co-op. Their priority is on getting it working properly, and they have just implemented it. And it's early access game with a dev that does not know how to do multiplayer to begin with, let alone VR multiplayer.
Should be interesting then.
Well, it doesn't work, is the current thing. The reports are all that if you are the guest player, your game will just, if it desyncs even a little bit, everything breaks.
Yeah. I get what he's doing. It's like one of these game development projects where he's learning as he goes, and I always respect that.
Well, the thing that most impressed me was, even though the scope of Into the Radius 1.0 for the first game was quite large and huge, it was still, he recognized it was just another sandbox in a world of VR sandboxes, and he took the time to totally redesign the game so that it fit more as a video game. Which gives us another title to add to the good VR game recommendation list.
That list is actually starting to get some heft to it, finally.
Well, it's got about, so far I've got about 4 personal recommendations that I give people. So it's not just, well, there's Half-Life Alyx and you can play Beat Saber occasionally. I've actually got some decent video games. There's room to grow. And you missed this discussion where I went on a tear about this, Fern. But it needs real innovators and people trying fun stuff. And notably, Into the Radius does learn from Alyx. It gives you gravity gloves. Not as strong as Alyx's, and it's not like on your character with a wrist flick motion. But if you press trigger while your hand is pointed at an object that your face is looking at, and then you press the grip button, if it's relatively close, about 6 feet or 6 to 10 feet near you, it'll zip to your hand. So they're learning that this is not just a feature that's fun to use, the gravity glove mechanic, it's also practical for gameplay purposes, because if I have to bend up and down all the time, I'm going to be tired and turn your game off faster.
Yes.
So they are learning, and I hope we get more people genuinely trying to make fun games like this instead of just more VR sandboxes, because we have plenty of those. They're a dime a dozen.
I'm glad we're largely out of the VR toy phase.
Well, we're still in it. The VR sandbox phenomenon, well, it's not a phenomenon, it's totally understandable why, is still in full swing. There's still a new VR sandbox will come out that'll be, this is a sandbox for guns, this is a sandbox for melee combat, but there's no actual game there. There's like, this is Gorilla Tag, this is Beat Saber, another rhythm game, another simple motion control game. Like, okay, we had the Wii for motion controls, and rhythm games can be played on stuff other than VR. Beat Saber and like Ragnarok and all that is about the peak we can get with that. Now, come on and make some real video games. And we're starting to get a few. The library's still not huge, and my personal recommendation list for things that are just video games is still only about 4 from things I've personally played. And also, roguelike one-trick ponies are also a huge light on this. But but I'll give Into the Radius a lot of props and time on the show with me yapping, just because I'm glad the guy took the time to redesign the game from scratch and free update for 1.0 to 2.0, turned into a proper game, and now he's making a proper sequel of Into the Radius 2, which is different from Into the Radius 2.0. 2.0 is the 2.0 update for the first game. Into the Radius 2 is the sequel. So the sequel is in...
They get confused.
Yeah. Yep, accidental terminology getting squabbled there, but not a whole lot he can do about that.
Yeah.
At least he did just put 2 for the sequel instead of coming
Yeah.
up with something dumb. So yeah, I'll give him a shout out and say if you've got a VR setup, it's definitely worth checking out and throwing him some cash bucks so that he's got a sizable team now. That's working on the game. I think his whoever he's with, whatever studio he's with, actually gave him proper resources for the second game after the first one was successful.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been a staple in VR, and hopefully in the sequel they move the map from your butt or let you place it literally anywhere else.
Oh,
This
it's
is
always in your butt pocket.
this is the only problem I have with this game is if you do not have full body tracking in your Oculus headset, the game has to guesstimate where you're oriented. If you have the show body option turned on, you can tell if you look down. But even then, if you're just trying to quickly reach down and grab your map, it's on your butt, and or right above your butt, and so a little bit off to your left side on your left butt cheek, and it is just really picky about where that stupid clipboard is that has the map on it. And so if you're trying to quickly whip the map out, it's just a little too inconvenient a spot. And I really wish they would let us customize that or pick a better spot for it. Because everything else is relatively easy to access, but not that spot. That spot is always a pain in the butt, and it's the spot you got to reach to the most. So other than that, the VR controls are fine. He's ironed out all the problems with it. Well, I guess the full team has now, since he's not just one guy in a small team of like 5 to 10 people. He's got a full proper team with him now. Looking forward to updates on that, and that's basically all I did this week.
Nice.
Lantern Rite is a thing. Fern's still going through the story of Lantern Rite.
Yeah, except
I have
I
not
can't-
finished it either. I've done most of it, not the epilogue. I really enjoyed it, but if Fern is going to go through it, we can just belay it until Fern's had time to do it, because it's a very solid little story. Like most of the Lantern Rite stories, has got some meat to it.
yeah. I am disappointed that they're still having issues with voice acting though.
It is particularly bad with this Lantern Rite if you play in English, because all the original voice actors are union.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't have that problem. I play exclusively in Japanese, and it's better in Japanese anyway, because you get to pick up lots of interesting little foibles in that. And like, for instance, there are the most obvious one is that there are no suffixes in English. Like, everybody's name is just boiled down to everybody else's name. So if a character in the Japanese customarily refers to another character as senpai, that will just be gone in the English. There'll be no allusion to it whatsoever. So that sort of hierarchical aspect to the writing is just gone in the English. It's removed and replaced with nothing. So I think it's categorically a better script in Japanese.
Yeah, it is very notable this time, because like, I don't know why Zhang Ling is the only one of the OG cast that managed to get her in. I don't know what her contract's
She gets
like.
brought back more often than everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play Star Rail in Japanese for the main story, so I got voice acting for this time, but apparently it was really, really bad for the English in that one for the last patch too. Almost everybody unvoiced.
Well, I mean, they ask that question on the regular. What language do you play this game in, and what dub do you actually use? They check that every time that there's a survey, so they are keeping an eye on it. And I think that they would probably just as soon jettison the English if they didn't have so many people who are just absolutely married to it.
Yeah,
It's gotten worse since a lot of the voice actors have tried to start up these internet cults of personality, like they're streamers or something. This made it significantly worse. Like, people are treating it like a sports team now.
Yeah. I have not had an issue with the ZZZ English performances. On the whole, I have a lot of problems with early Genshin. Later Genshin, it gets much better, barring a few characters which were introduced during the current strike. So I have no idea how their options were in an already low talent pool.
People who are really into the English voice acting are probably going to have to put up with a lot of butter vision this cycle in in Star Rail.
Yeah. Well, life is butter vision, you know. But I do, for people that just like and prefer English, I do feel bad. I too am one of those people. People that don't particularly engage with the the greater nuance of the voice acting and just want to hear stuff in their own language. I can sympathize, but and I know you exist. I know you're not a
I
fantasy.
might be in that
head.
category. I might be in that category if I had any faith in the script writers and the ADRs. Like, that's the thing. That I just don't think that English is very good. It's not that there's something magical about Japanese and I'm some weeb who thinks that Japanese is just fundamentally better. I think that the script writers for English are shite. End of story.
The thing is, the thing I was getting at with it was for the totally just, this is not a game franchise they actively engage with the beyond the most surface level casual play. Maybe like don't even do dailies all the time, but log on and do the story and coming on and it not being voiced. I can sympathize with that, even though you're getting trouble with the story, as I mentioned with Genshin's localization, with the last few patches and how they have basically had to sack the localization team. It seems like. I wonder if that's why it was so bad for this Lantern Rite with so many characters going on voice. Because you wouldn't think they would all not be able to make it except for Zhang Li. But
the union is pretty big and spanning, so.
Well, yeah, there's that, but usually there's a few token characters, more than one, that still maintain their voices throughout all these.
Mm-hmm.
But there was basically nobody that wasn't named Zhangling was voiced, and I wonder if that's because
it's not just going to be union people, though. It's going to be people who are trying to avoid attracting the ire of the unions. Because the unions don't just control their own people. They persecute people who don't join the union as well.
Yeah, and they will make it harder to get in. I just I'm wondering if the current localization shakeup that happened a few months ago might have impeded the ability to get any voice actors that could show up.
Well, I think there's also the chance that Hoyo's just gone cold on them. Like, there's like, you people are just too much trouble. We'll just rethink our strategy on this.
Yeah,
there is that possibility too. Yes.
Just don't forget they've completely re-recorded characters for all their historical lines in the past just to get rid of people.
Yeah.
Yep. And honestly, they've got the money.
Yeah. So I mean, the think about the money that it costs to hire an English voice actor is not very much compared to a lot of countries, and then you compare that to the amount of money that could be involved in like the trouble that it would cause with the union if they kept trying to deal with them all the time, kept trying to appease them, kept trying to keep them on side. So it's just not worth the trouble, not worth the effort. They're incredibly entitled, and their entitlement is something that only grows. People don't ever reach a point where they back off being entitled. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, you can break
unless they get hit in the face by it.
Even
like
then,
hard.
even then, you might have a moment for a brief period where they calm down a bit, but the second they get back up on their feet again, they're right back.
It comes back. Yep. All right. Is there anything actually coming up on the horizon for Genshin at this point? Because at the moment we got the
I haven't watched
Jade and Stone banner up.
I haven't watched the content. The next banner to come out will be Farina and Risley's the next side. So they're bringing Risley back. They're bringing Farina back. Mizki's the new character's going to have a new banner, and I can't remember offhand what the other one is. But so Aristeel's going to be scraping up all of his Prima Gems to get him a Farina.
Yeah.
Get him
Yep.
his very own girl failure.
Yeah. Just
She's such a hot mess.
she's recommended for basically every single team, and when it comes to Navia, and I just not having her has bugged me because like the Quackosaur fight in particular, one Spiral Abyss, one or two Spiral Abysses ago, just was up there, and I could, if I had a way to deal with that Quackosaur, I probably, if I really thought about it, I could have 36 starred that Abyss, but I could not catch the Quackosaur. and
Yeah,
every
I'm glad I go on.
every time I went to look up anything about it to find alternatives to deal with it, everybody was just saying use Farina.
They just assume you've got her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was why I pulled for Mavwika, is because I didn't want there to be a situation where everybody just assumes you've got all the Archons because everybody knows Archons are good. Like way back in the day, it was the same thing with Venti. Like everybody just assumed you had Venti for CC and Swirl, and there were no exceptions to that. Every strategy was built around it. So yeah, getting Farina if you don't have her is definitely a good idea. Like I have never regretted going in on getting Farina. It was definitely worthwhile. And this time I'm sort of debating, well, is there any value to getting her to C2 or getting her signature? Because she's basically, you can build strategies around her power very easily because she's I'd say she's probably the most powerful buffer on the game, on par with the likes of Shilonen.
Yeah, they and each team is going to need a steroider of some kind if in a 2-team setup. So having both is only good. So I'll be attempting to get Farina. I'm trying to stock up on Primos. I'm still recovering, and do not have anywhere near a guarantee yet. Got like 13 or 14,000 Primo gems and 10 pulls. Oh, I can buy 5 more from the store
Nice.
because month refreshed.
A new month.
Actually, just fiddling around with this, I've got enough for a 10 pull on the Remembrance.
What?
The Remembrance banner is up. So it lets you pick a 5-star to aim for. And a bunch of Leeway characters. So Baizu, Shenhe,
I would
Ganyu, Kiki, Tartaglia, and Zhao.
Arlecchino and
definitely
Chlorine
not recommend pulling on that unless there's somebody that you really adore, because there's just nothing to be gained from doing it.
Yeah,
There is the temptation to pull for Shenhe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's only because of memes, though. That you've been memed into thinking that way. It's not actually that you need.
Oh, I
Shenhe
know
for
she's not
anything.
great.
Like, do you have any cryo point men to do to power up? Like, it's not.
Yeah, she is only useful if you have Ayaka, basically.
Yeah.
Like she's part of the Ayaka team. The Ayaka team that sort of like was good into sort of like halfway through Sumeru. Sumeru was like the premium DPS team, but that's what she's for, and it's really the only role she plays.
So if you don't have Ayaka, Shenhe is basically useless. Baizu is a healer that's been outclassed. He's outdone in raw healing by Fishwife, and there are better ways to get shields than through your healer. Chi-Chi is Chi-Chi. Catching you already have. Goatwife is been power crept, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, there are people who would pull Goatwife because she's Goatwife, but that's what I'm saying, is that that's the main reason to pull on this banner. If you're like a huge fan of Shenhe or a huge fan of Ganyu and you just want them, or you're one of those fangirls who just can't get enough of Xiao but somehow missed him on the banner every time. And I guess that there are fans of Tartaglia as well.
Why do people like Zhao so much? Every time I see him, he shows up, he's grumpy, and that's it.
He's the Sasuke Uchiha of this game.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, there's you'll get infinite more value if you for some reason had to push a pull button right now from Arlecchino or Chlorinde.
Yeah, like Arlecchino a bit more doubtful because you've got Mavwika and Arlecchino fills the same role. But
I think Mavwika just outclasses him. at this point.
No, that's not strictly true because they have completely opposite approaches. Like they do the same job, and Mavuika is definitely better, but it's not like a one-to-one outclassing power creeping thing.
Yeah,
Like
no, I mean
if
more in
if
the
you've
context
already
of my
got
team.
if you've got for you, she's definitely outclassed by Mavuika because Alachino slots into a toolbox which is built on health manipulation, which is what the people who were going hard during Fontaine already have.
Mhm.
Cloranda's similar. Cloranda's catching Promax, as they say. If you've got catching, then you don't need her unless you're also planning to go all in on health and bond of life manipulation. So
Yeah.
both of them are better than anything on the Remembrance banner, but they're also not really relevant to your team building. If I were you, I would just hold fire and wait for more characters that you're interested in to emerge rather than trying to backfill strategies that you can't guarantee characters will appear for. Like there are
Yeah.
characters that you can make an argument for. Like you can make a very cohesive argument for pulling for Wriothesley if what you really want is a cryo frontman, because there just aren't very many. There's Wriothesley and Ayaka, and that's it. You're going to
Yeah.
have to lead with one of those if you want to go with cryo as your driver. But generally speaking, Cloranda and Alachino are both part of metas past that, like, I use Cloranta because I've got all of the characters necessary to make her tick, but generally speaking, you're not going to be able to guarantee you're going to be able to backfill those characters.
Yeah,
You could kludge it together, but the performance will be worse than just working with the tools you already have in the toolkit.
yeah,
Let's see.
like I like Clorinda a lot, and her playstyle is something that would fall right in my usual bucket for most games. But the simple fact of the matter is, I do not have the characters to support her. Farina is too important for that, and if I pulled on Clorinda, I would have nothing for Farina.
Yeah. So just flicking through what Risley teams are, and a lot of them need Fishwife.
Yeah,
There's a
because
few for
off-field hydro application is really, really important. Nahida, I don't really know why you would
Yeah, I'm not
focus too
sure
much on
they're
Nahida
going
for
with those.
Risley. They don't interact a huge amount. There are interactions there because, Cryo is normally going to be playing off of, like, if you're leading with Risley, it's likely you're going to be working with something like Reverse Melt. But in terms of Nahida, I think there's a bit of a weaker interaction there. But it's still usable, of course. But yeah,
Of
like
course.
Wriothesley gets reruns at the rate of a Shenhei. Like if they hadn't decided that they needed to go back and revive Cryo, then he would be in the Shenhei bucket. But the reality is there just aren't that many options. If you want a Cryo driver, it's like you've got Ayaka or Wriothesley or arguably Ganyu, although Ganyu can perform okay off field as well. So there's just not that many options. It's not that Risey's particularly standout. Most people that pull for him are just fangirls for him. Same as Xiao.
I do appreciate Risley, but I'm not going to go running after him, honestly.
I have to remember.
I don't think that this is really a good time to be pulling on characters right now, because there's several major ones coming down the pike that nobody knows the details of. The big one is Skirk, I would say. That would be my guess. The one that's got the most anticipation behind it. But there are several others as well, like Yan San's going to coming out, and Aoife's going to be coming out, and the other characters from the Collective of Plenty are going to be coming out. They are all probably going to play more into extant metas, which are going to work better with characters that you already have, because they're going. Several of them will be Night Soul based. Skirk won't be Night Soul based. The new Anemo characters. No, not Anemo. Is she Anemo? I don't think she's an Anemo. The new character, the psychotherapist character that's coming out. She's Inazuman, so she's not going. She's like a childhood friend of Yayamiko, so she's probably a troll.
Probably.
She's not going to be Night Soul based, so but she's also apparently, her current kit as of last closed beta leaks is quite bad, so nobody really knows what state she's going to release in, but there's also rumors she's going to be on the permanent banner. So it seems like they want to expand the permanent banner again. So yeah, definitely not a good time to pull there. Like I think the most live pull right now is to get Alachino or Cloranda if your deck needs them as the final keystone to make a team work, or alternatively, Farina, if you are missing Farina and want Farina because you need an off-field Hydra applicator or you need her for her buffing potential, or just hold fire and see what the shape of the new characters coming down the line are.
Yeah,
There are some
I'm actually
characters, if you like, right now, I'm just going for Farina because Farina just is a tool that everybody assumes you have, and I would like to have that tool in the toolbox. Basically, I can take or leave Farina. She's second best Archon next to Nahida, but I'll take her. But all I'm saving for right now is niche characters because the pickings just aren't super good right now. And won't be until the next batch of Natland stuff starts rolling out. We start seeing new kits. Basically, Nailu and Fishwife are the only other characters I have to be on the lookout for on radar. And Nailu's a meme. Don't pull for Nailu. I'm pulling for Nailu. I'm pulling for Nailu for a meme.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams out there I've seen with Kokomi on them, but yeah,
Fishwife is just Turbo Barbara.
Yeah,
she is Turbo Barbara.
There's a pretty common thread throughout Hoyo games where every 4-star will eventually get a 5-star version of themselves if their mechanics are at all appealing to players. It's sort of you can see this playing out across multiple games as well. Like for instance, you can model Astra Yao as basically an upgraded version of Sokaku because they use the same flat attack transfer mechanism as their primary buffering venue, and they use basically swapping in and swapping out as the method of moving this buff around. So this is a pretty standard pattern that they've used to approach design in the past, and you can see that throughout Genshin as well. Like most popular 4-star models have been then further developed into a 5-star equivalent.
It can take them a while sometimes. Catching Progmatics took until Clorinda to get out. But
because she was already a 5-star, so you've got to put a bigger gap in there. But but you can see it in very clearly in Star Rail as well, the way that they do this. Like basically every character that's been released recently, you can trace the design elements to something earlier that has been developed further. But
yeah, it makes sense to do that from a development point of view, at least.
Yeah, the thing is that my problem with this development strategy is that they tend to sort of lose their grip on it and go hog wild after a bit, and then they'll remember that 4 stars are actually a thing you need. So if everything came out as a 4-star and then they used that to basically mine ideas out of, that would be fine. But what usually ends up happening is at some point they get out over their skis and realize that they've left the 4-star roster to go to seed. Like the most obvious example of this, I think, is Moza. Moza was introduced because they realized all of a sudden that they needed to backfill follow up with a 4-star character who could be used against small numbers of targets. There's nothing particularly innovative about Moza in any way. Moza was designed to be essentially like free-to-play Fei Xiao.
Yeah,
it was because they realized that they had created an archetype that was just missing a 4-star option, and you could not substitute anything, because if you looked at the follow-ups, there just weren't really any options. The follow-up for multi-target at 5-star level free to play was Himeko, and at 4-star level it was Herta, and both of them are erudition. Like, what are you going to do then? So they had to backfill that strategy, and this is a defect in their pacing. The way that it's supposed to work, based on the theory that they've been implementing so far, is that they release the 4 stars, and then a sort of like a patch, several patch cycles later, like say when you've moved from 2.x to 3.x, then you start bringing those ideas forward as fully developed 5 stars with their own gimmicks. And this is sort of the loose pattern that they follow, but like I said, they get out over their skis and they make a dozen characters at 5-star level that are all playing off some gimmick, and then realize actually we've just drawn all of the water out of the well. We need to go back and backfill all of the ideas that we made meta when we left the free-to-players without any way of using them.
They had a bit of a band-aid with follow-up specifically in that example, in that for a while, in fact, most players had Ratio for free. But in that time that they really made follow up big, it more and more time had passed since then, and more people had come back or got into the game during Pinaconi.
Yeah.
And they
Mozo is very obviously, oh, we've made a mistake, we need to fix it. It's kind of sad in a way because Mozo's actually really good at what he does. The problem is that everybody either had Ratio to fill in for Moza, or they had Fei Xiao, and Moza just basically doesn't see any play, even though he's good. He's like really good, really effective. It's
Yeah.
just that he's not ever going to be as effective as Fei Xiao is, for obvious reasons. But if he had come out like several patches earlier, there would have been heaps of niche teams that are going to be using him. Basically everybody who didn't have Ratio or everybody who didn't want to run a debuff based team would have been running Moza for their follow up because he's quite good at what he does. But you know, he came out basically alongside Fei Xiao, so it was basically a dead letter. But they needed to have him there because fundamentally he's just a necessary part of the system required to move things forward. Like you can't have these gaping holes, or you end up looking cynical, way too cynical. And when a gacha creator who people are willing to already accept a certain level of cynicism from ends up looking extra cynical because they just don't leave any non-paid options for a particular strategy, well, you really can't afford that because if you are a casino, people's perception that you're a casino that plays fair is necessary in order to keep people coming. If people have foremost in their mind that the house always cheats, then they're definitely not going to be spending any money. You're not going to get any punters. That's just the way it is. But you don't want to be in the position where you're always backfilling, because in the way I say nobody uses Moza, what that means is that he was actually wasted development. They wasted all that development time, more or less, because he's basically a PR exercise to defuse the perception that the house doesn't play fair. If he had come out at the right time, with the right release cadence, where he saw some use, where everybody was familiarized with single target follow-up character who's performing really well in a modern context, and then you release Fei Xiao as Moza Pro Max, people won't perceive that as cynical to the same extent. So yeah, they tripped up there, and there's a lot of these little mistakes when they're trying to play this fine balancing act of being exploitative as they need to be in order to move forward with their business model, but not so exploitative that people feel that they're being mistreated.
But yeah, the on-shot that discussing you thinking about pulling for a cryo character is the hydro applicator that is also the healer can be Barbara.
It can be Barbara.
It's just if you go for Fishwife or have Fishwife, you have Barbara Pro Max. And so you will get that role filled with the 5-star variant of a character. Because Fishwife is literally just Barbara, but with better numbers and a more useful kit, and the jellyfish is better than the ring.
Yep. But it might be a while till we see another Fishwife banner anyway, so.
It's been a while since you got one. I don't think we'll have to wait quite till Chronicled Wish to get her.
Oh,
and people like Fishwife. I hope they run Fishwife soon-ish, like within about 4 or 5 patches would be nice. Or 4 or 5 banner cycles. But we'll see. We have no idea.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of starting to reach a point where I need to start considering a second team that I can hit Spiral Abyss properly.
If you're going to be building a team from scratch, don't backfill an existing strategy, because it'll take you lots and lots of banners for them to rotate around and find it. You'd be better off just waiting to see what comes down the line. At the pace you play, you might as well just wait to see the next meta that emerges and buy into that instead.
Yeah, that's one option. The other option is just see what I've got already and see what I can do with that.
Or look
you can always build Taser. Everybody can always build Taser. The problem is that Taser requires more technical skill to play than any of the other simple builds, but it's the only one that's perennial.
You can also just collect a few generalist units if you just really need to. The problem is the true fits in so many team archetypes that you can get away with pulling it regardless of what your current roster is. There aren't too terribly many. Most of the metagames these days revolve around some kind of interaction. between either two elements or a specific gimmick. So like Farina, she has the health manipulation gimmick, but she is a general support, and that even teams that can't take advantage of the health manipulation gimmick as much can still run her as long as a healer's somewhere in there. Things like, but things that drivers, especially your main on-field characters, where the real problem is. Deciding on your second driver is rough because that's going to dictate the rest of the team and what you have to pull for. And, unless you've already built up a little bit of a roster of specifically level a few of your 4-stars, that'll give you something to play with and aim for, and as a baby version of a big team, for deciding on a driver and what meta to start going hog for. That's where the real trouble is, because right now, if you pulled Clorinda, you'd be trying to find ways to take advantage of the manipulated bond to life mechanic. You'd have to really consider getting Farina too, which you aren't going to have time to save for, and you'd have to have a proper full built Barbara as your healer, as your baby healer, or hope for a Fishwife rerun. That's a bit much if you grabbed her as a driver. I'll let you know, similar deal with bond to life mechanic, and you already have a pyro unit in Mavwika that plays just fine as a driver. So you don't need Arlecchino. Although she is really good and not locked in Atlan teams, she still requires a archetype to operate.
Yeah, I would say if you wanted a new team tomorrow, I would just build one of the simpler 4-star teams. Like I would do something like I'd do Lantern Right and pick Lanyan, and I would build Fischl, and I'd build Xingqiu, and I'd build Dendro Traveler, and then you can make yourself a nice stable, a Nemo driven team with a little bit of aggravate in there.
You could even
that will work relatively stably. It's got Xingqiu and Fischl are both juggernauts of 1.0. Lanyan is a modern character who provides you with heaps of shield, like one of the most powerful shields in the game, sort of up to on par with Zhongli's. And Dendro Traveler is just a solid all-round Dendro applicator that will work for allowing you to have your Dendro reactions going on in the background. Like that's a relatively solid middle of the road team that would apply to a lot of things, and you can get all of the pieces for it right now.
Yeah, I would also recommend just make your teams the Kanish Burning team and take Mavwika off that team, replace her with Jangling, and turn Mavwika into the Clobberbot driver on his alone.
No, I don't recognize. I don't recommend going all in on Shangling for anybody who's not going to farm forever to get the best energy regen gear. It's just I think her energy regen requirements are just unreasonably high for a casual player.
Well, Fern's not averse to penises, so he has Bennett.
I do have Bennett. So yeah, but Wika, honestly, I kind of like where she is at the moment. I need to finish building out her kit a bit more anyway. Because she's only like half built at the moment.
Oh, she's only level 50.
I've never built Shangling myself because I just don't want to have to farm until I have energy regen in every single slot.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you, even if you've got a goodly amount of energy regen, it's not enough. It's never enough.
You got to get your spinny going constantly, and that you need massive amounts of energy regen for that.
Even if you've got it on as much as you can get away with, unless you farm forever for the optimal energy regen, you will be stuck and need to wait for Guoba.
Yep.
And there's no worse feeling than having to wait for Guoba.
Yep. Or I could just use my Wika and have benefit from a shorter cooldown.
Yeah. The only shoe in that ointment is if you don't need a double team right now though, so it's not an urgent thing. She is your only other premium driver that could get you off the ground. Uh-oh, this is a bad idea.
Oh, mistakes made.
Yeah, I started hopping up the hill as soon as I saw you doing that.
Something just went boom, and Kanich got dead because he kind of exploded.
Yeah, there was lightning barrels up there.
Yeah, I didn't notice those until I was just about to hit them. So yeah, the other option I'd probably consider would be maybe a catching driver and go around that.
Oh yeah, you can
That's yeah,
you can do that.
That's reasonable. She's showing her age a little bit, but it
is a bit,
works out
yeah.
fine if you build her for aggravate or something like that. You gotta
Yeah.
build that Dendro Traveler though, because
Yeah.
Dendro
Build that
Traveler's
Dendro
going to be your
Traveler.
best option. And Dendro Traveler is energy region hungry, not as energy region hungry as Shangling is, but still pretty hungry. But Aristil, you needn't have pulled Sitlali because Lanyan's Biss is Sitlali's signature.
Oh no.
And she apparently, if you give it to her, she just basically becomes an emo Zhongli.
That's crazy. Yeah.
All right, we should move on.
Right. So that's all the Genshin stuff. Genshin's on hold. Star Rail still have you touched the minor event yet, Nalval?
Yeah, it looked like it took like 15 minutes, but
Yeah, it was
I thought it was they dressed it up like it was going to be bigger than it really was.
yeah, it was I was surprised how short it was. I mean, I like the goat puzzles.
Yeah, they're okay. The explanation for what you're actually supposed to do the first time you run into one is complete trash.
Yeah,
But
don't
that's
read those
pretty
pop-ups.
much par for the course.
That's Hoyo standard, is that?
I wonder how much
Yeah,
my enjoyment of the goat puzzles has to do with I didn't read that pop-up.
Yeah, I tried to do what the pop-up described the first one, and I got stuck on like the very first one that you meet for ages because I didn't understand what I was supposed to do. The tutorial was so bad. And then I just I stopped interacting with them at that point and came back to them later purposefully after I'd forgotten what was on the pop-up, and it was trivially easy.
Mm-hmm. The only new puzzle type I do not like is the stacking shapes to make match the patterns.
I was traumatized by one in particular,
the
but
triple
that was the
diamond
only one I
one.
had yeah, that was the only one I had difficulty with. The thing is that the game contains that one twice. It's just that one of them is way easier than the other one.
Yeah, that is just I just don't like that puzzle type. Not because it's difficult, because that one did leave me with trauma. But because it's just I don't find it fun.
Yeah, well, likewise, I hate Puyo Puyo, but Genshin made me play Puyo Puyo for like half an hour. So
yeah, I do like Puyo Puyo a lot. And oh, who was it I found that was OP? I think it was Zhang I found that was OP and could blow through it fast. But yeah, not a whole lot going on in Star Rail. That one's also in farm mode. I don't know about you, but I've been just collecting remembrance traces and whatever artifacts I can.
I haven't done anything. I've been logging in and dumping my resin and logging out. I haven't had time to do anything else. I've been too busy.
Yeah, it's in post major patch maintenance mode.
There's heaps of stuff I would like to do. I just don't have time to sit down and play video games at the moment.
Yeah, I've got other games on my plate I want to go through, and I treat Star Rail's permanent side quest stuff as a single player game experience. I've got all the Amphoria's side quest bar 1 or 2 backlogged that I have not done yet.
Yeah, I haven't touched them either because I haven't had time to do more than log in, and that's basically this is my limitation on everything is real world time. It's not oh well I've got all these things I want to do with these resources that are limiting me. No, it's not that. It's how much time do I actually have to sit down and play video games. There's not very much of it.
Yeah, and then there's the last Hoyo game for the Hoyo update, ZZZ, which is the reason I have not didn't have much time to do the other ones. The ZZZ event is long.
Yeah, like that. Cool. I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to do last weekend, but that all evaporated because the Bangbo beauty pageant was too long.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Bang Boo beauty pageant. Simon Says plus Fall Guys.
Because why not, I guess.
I still haven't finished. I still need to do like 1,000,000 rounds of Fall Guys, and I've got to do 1,000,000 rounds of like the arcade games as well now, which I'm not particularly amused about.
I'm writing them feedback that you should stop making this arcade part of your events for your new releases, because people play this game for an action game, and while I don't mind the bigger
It's
events.
the exact same principle as the Bamboo TV, basically. It's not what we signed up for.
Yeah, like I'm a bit more forgiving in the case of the Bamboo Fashion Show, even though it's really long, because they clearly developed this into a full event by itself, and put work into having
And
story here.
yeah, it has meaningful story and ties into other story events that are clearly coming down the line.
And yeah, it what I'm not so sanguine about with the arcade mode is this is a game mode that, in addition to being divorced from everything else, is literally just rip-offs of other games that I could go play if I wanted the genuine experience. Like, cool. I don't mind you having the stupid arcade here for us to goof around in if we really want to, but please stop making events and especially timed events in there.
Yeah. Well, I hate playing Vampire Survivors on that thing. I don't understand it. There's lots of weird mechanics that I give them kudos for developing their own variant on Vampire Survivors that isn't exactly a copy of Vampire Survivors. But I don't want to be doing that, and the skills from Vampire Survivors are not transferable.
Yeah.
So it's just an annoying thing to have to learn how to play just so that you can do something you don't like for an extended period of time so that you can get an event out of the way. And this is something that ZZZ keeps doing that Star Rail doesn't keep doing to me, which is making me do things I hate.
It seems
This
like
is like it's Arpeggio fault all over again for me.
it seems like once every 3 events in ZZ, 3 big events, we get an arpeggio fault. Like, it just, ugh. Please stop
I
that.
would rather if they just had not had any event at all. It would have been fine with me. I'd rather not have it. Rather than have it hanging over my head and have that green exclamation mark on my screen every single day saying, hey, you want to go play Vampire Survivors again? And I'm like, no, I don't, but you're going to make me, aren't you?
You want to go play it with Billy?
I brought NB, and that was a terrible idea because NB took every single health reduction
Oh, they
skill
all
possible.
do. All 3 of them
Okay.
do. All 3 of the cunning hairs do. I
So
haven't taken
it was
Negamata.
basically a case of I load the stage and I have to solo it somehow, even though I'm terrible at that game. So it was just I got really frustrated really quickly because the AI companions are so suicidal. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, now you're playing multiplayer mode by yourself. Enjoy.
Yeah, like, all of them do not care what they pick up. They will just pick up random crap and inevitably reduce their health down to nothing.
Like, Anby, why do you suddenly have 2 hit points at max?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They do be like that. I have not tried the new mini game they put in. That's presumably the whole reason they're doing one of these. But like, the arcade's okay as a distraction. I don't mind you having it as a distraction. Even the permanent rewards, those are fine. Just please stop putting timed events there.
Like, I guess that it's probably part of like their incubator team that they put the interns on or something. But if they are spending a cent of real development money on this, then I have nothing but resentment.
Yeah, they well,
because I don't like it, and I want them to spend that money on something good, not
Yeah.
Snake. Like,
Yeah.
what is this? Nokia in the 90s?
I played that on my iPod.
It's an oldie but a goodie. But yeah, just about every phone had a version of Snake on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a they get out over their skis quite hard on these events when it comes to the random extra crap sometimes. And ZZZ in particular seems like it really likes to have bigger events. Now, this is a double-edged sword. On one hand, that they take much longer to do, and presumably they do this because it's very easy to chew through the content that's currently in the game. If you just dedicate yourself to it, people will run out of crap to do if they're dedicated players, which is your whale targets. You know, the people that buy Dodge Rat with real money.
I don't know how many of those people necessarily have completed the Battle Tower twice, including the limited one.
Yeah, I haven't done those either. I'm still working on that. But You need Electro for this.
Oh, yeah, got to supercharge that. Actually, before I do this,
yeah,
do some healings.
the other kick-on effect of these really long events, though, is I seem to have way more premium currency in ZZZ relative to the other games because they seem to still pay out for the time invested. So they clearly want these events to be a major focus of the gameplay. But man, are they really hit or miss? You need to actually.
I know. You
Unless
have an objection to Oz just chilling? Hang on.
this one.
Oz. That one worked.
Yeah, there's grapple points.
Hey, yep. Oh, they're way up there. Okay.
Mail.
New mail.
But yeah. Arcade event not so good. I don't mind the Bang Boo Fashion Pageant event. That's kind of what I expect for their more special, longer thought out events. And there's a lot of story there to go through, even if it does take forever. And I think it was running for a while, even though we decided to get it done in big chunks each, or as much, most of it done in big chunks each. So it's that one's been fine, but it also has stopped ZZZ from going into maintenance mode because these want your time.
Yeah, well, I want to go and do some of my backlog of regular ZZZ quests, but I kind of can't because all of my ZZZ time gets eaten up by trivial bullcrap like playing full booze or playing arcade games. I don't actually really want to be doing. I would much rather do the other backlogs, but those things are eternal and the events are limited. And the events, for some reason, none of the events want me to play ZZZ. They want me to play something else.
Yeah.
Did they actually call it full booze?
No.
No.
Okay, good.
It's got a lore name.
Well, the whole event is called Writer's Got Boo.
Close enough, I suppose.
But
I mean, they're not wrong. It does. I think it's kind of delightful how like that final scene, the cinematic, just how enthusiastic Eus is
He's
to get to be the one to. He's totally into it.
So happy. Like, I'll see if I can post a picture of this in live show chat. Minor spoilers if you haven't done the event. Just surely there's a gif of how happy Pecho says.
It's sort of hard to believe that they were invented by Sunbringer, and because she looks so somber and so dour, and yet she's just invented these fat robot rabbits.
Just so dumb and goofy.
There's a whole lot of gifs of Eos in the new. You know how in the new simulated universe mode you control Eos in the break areas.
Yeah.
There's a disturbing amount of gifs that are Eos just running into characters' legs.
I see. We need to stop letting him hang out with the Snufflin' Bang Boo.
Needs to keep him away from Safety Boo.
Yeah, Safety Boo teaches bad habits.
I cannot find a good gif of it, but the final cinematic for the New Year event, because this is the New Year event for ZZZ, so that's also why it's so long. Is just Eos is the happiest little Bang Boo. He is the most adorable thing in the world. He's more like a dog than a rabbit that's finally got told he can go fetch the ball.
Yeah, a lot of people were kind of taken aback that that there's no New Year's event for Star Rail.
Yeah, I kind of thought there would be, but at the same time, I'm not surprised there isn't, given a patch just dropped.
Yeah, and also in addition to the way the content cycle is shaped, there's basically no cohesive culture there. Like you'd basically have to go back to Shunsho again,
Yeah.
which would create kind of a it would create kind of a violent break in the continuity, since currently Trailblazer and Butter Vision are stranded on Amphorius, so it wouldn't really make sense to suddenly yank them into some other continuity. I mean, they've not cared about things like that in the past, but it's still a little bit jarring if they did. And I don't know to what extent Amphorius even has an astronomical cycle to take note of, since it doesn't seem like they really have got much of a day-night cycle to begin with.
Okay, I posted in live show chat the cutscene of Eos getting to go run up and push the button. Yeah, Eos is just adorable. And he deserves it after having to go through that event. He had no confidence at all at the start of that event.
All right. Is that it for the Hoyo stuff? Or is there something else?
Not really. The games are in event or maintenance mode for the most part while we wait on their patches to come out. This happens. Yeah. We'll get, because we seem to get 3 big drops usually back to back, and then they all go on farming mode for a bit, unless there's a 0.5 event or patch that's worth talking about. And ZZ just got its big one with Astra Yao, and that coincided with Raidu Got Boo. And then Star Rail's still got 3.0 out, and that just happened not too long ago. We're about to go into the 0.5 banner, I think, with Aglaya, and that's all that's really happened in there. And Genshin is doing Lantern Right, but we're waiting to talk about that one until you finish it, because the spoiling the story will ruin it for you.
Yeah, so that'll be next week.
Yep.
So, all right. Is there really any news we actually want to talk about?
Well, email.
A lot of stuff happened.
Email.
Oh, we have an email? Yeah.
I'm not allowed to read it according to the title.
Oh.
So this email is entitled, "Please don't let Ari read my emails." So this is from our good buddy Serathis. Dear No Excuses. So first things first. Yes, when someone brings up the morosism card, the proper response is, I don't care, but in Italian. Since the show is turning more and more into Hoyo Gacha discussion, after your remarks about ZZZ, I decided to just grab the singer instead of the cop. Hopefully I'm not roping myself into having to pull for her bodyguard and whatever new meta is being deployed. Genshin is on maintenance mode. I log in to maybe spend energy and hoover up the coins from the Bitcoin farm. Maybe we get more story about the Saurian before we head off to Russia. Meanwhile, in HSR, I have pretty much depleted all my premium pull resources, so now I'm torn between trying for some of the Rememberberry characters or Ruanmei. I should get at least one good offensive summoner since I went for Sunday. Also, the HSR event was insultingly simple, just the various puzzles you did already in 3.0. Oh, hold on. You've taken a really wide screenshot here. I took the gems as Hoyo trying to make up for fin-doming us with the quadruple banner. But also apparently Metroidvanias are a thing. I too have bought 9 souls, right now on the big warrior boss in the factory area. What can I say? The game is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. But oh boy, do not play it if you have carnophobia. The alien space cats take human resources very literally. But I've also got Ender Magnolia, the sequel to Ender Lilies. This one is the Bloodborne to Lily's Dark Souls. Instead of a dead kingdom full of undead monsters, you are stuck in a dying city full of undead/robot monsters. Still summoning the purified versions of enemies to fight for you because you are still playing as a lolly ? The biggest change is that there are NPCs you can talk to, and the spirits also talk to each other, but still no voice acting, and the game is still pretty easy but fun. So the textbook case of an iterative sequel, and at least until we get Silksong. Lol. Now, unfortunately, I haven't played a Medieval because I don't actually play the absolute deluge of boom shoots that have been flooding Steam since Dusk released.
Really? You
That and
could
I
have
got
fooled
burnt
me.
by that, and I got burnt by Dread Templar, Akval, and Aeon of Ruin being mid at best. At least until we get Brutal Fate and Trenched Foot. Serapis.
Yeah, a lot of people are trying to really fill the gap until Silksong happens.
It's
Why
not
do people think Silksong is going to happen?
Well, they
I-
poked their head out of a hole
I-
again last week and disappointed everyone before disappearing again.
I have not seen anybody that actually believes the game is coming out at this point. Most people that are not on this, in fact, even the Silksong Reddit at this point is pretty much just assuming it's vaporware.
Yeah. So, yeah, the fact that developers popped out of their hole last week and talked about various things which sent people down an ARG rabbit hole, only for the developers to say, "Oh no, that's not related. We're still working on it, but that's not a thing," and then disappearing again.
Yeah. It's somehow even worse because about once every 6 months they poke their head out of their hole and say we're still working on it.
Yeah.
This thing better be like 200 hours long of quality content from start to finish.
Yeah. I'm hoping they're making a masterpiece, but when this sort of thing happens, it rarely works out.
If you go more than a year past your projected time, that we go from yellow flags to red flags.
Yeah.
And every single red flag is going off with Skong.
Can we just have the game again? Can we have the game, please?
No. Just gotta...
Oh.
They've got to... Gibson's got to sit there and redesign everything from scratch again because you watched a movie or something.
Please don't.
I have no idea what the heck is going on with Silksong. At this point, I will be happy to see it if it comes out. Oh, Lenny and Lynette sent us stuff. That nice.
Oh, okay. Has Linny learned how clothes work yet?
No.
Oh.
But yeah, that's Silksong. ZZZ, I think you'll be fine with Astra, even if Evelyn plays into her gimmick a bit. Astra just seems like she'll be maybe not evergreen support because Gacha games eventually will power creep their older units, no matter which one you play. But she will last you quite a while, certainly longer than Zoo will. Zoo's already on her way out, and she's not that old. Only a few patches old. So you'll be okay with Astra, I think, though, just because of the nature of her being a 5-star support. Just having that tool in the toolbox will be a boon to your account. Evelyn does synergize with her really well, but you don't need her, and you don't need to abuse that synergy. Astra works just fine on a Miyabi team with Nicole to make a corruption usable, or even just by herself on any team that likes to quick swap a lot, like a Jane team. So yeah, I think you'll be fine. You'll find a place to slaughter just fine.
Yeah, I remember seeing the first Astra guides going up, and it'd be like they're like, okay, so best teams to Astra, every team.
Yeah, it's like you can use her anywhere. This is also a knock-on effect of the roster being so small, in that people can make an argument for any support going on any team because there's so few of them.
The same thing was the case in Star Rail near launch. Like every team would benefit from Bronya. Every team would benefit from Runway. There was not really any reason to restrict them. Like Super Break didn't exist, so there was no particular location where additional toughness damage played particularly harder for anyone in one location than anywhere else, because the purpose of toughness break was to get the damage buff from them being broken and delayed. It was not about the specifics of toughness break really. So Ranmei was just regarded as the utility knife support for every team where you weren't using, say, Sparkle a bit later, for teams that just drank skill points, like the Mahjong teams and the Imbibitor Lune teams, where you just need to constantly glug skill points. But Ranmei still works tolerably good in pretty much every team because she just offers a lot of, baseline power in a similar way to the way Robin works in every team, even though she benefits follow-up more than other teams, generally speaking. Astra is even more generic. The only situation where you really wouldn't want Astra would be if there was a team where you need to spend a lot of on-field time on one character to build something up in order to make the team work. She probably wouldn't work in a team like that very well, but she's going to work in every other team because at the end of the day, she does damage from off-field, which is something that is basically her and a little bit Rena and Bernice, and that's it. That's the whole roster that can do off-field damage. And other than that, she's just a big old chunk of attack. And everybody loves a big old chunk of attack. So there's really no reason to exclude her from any given team. If your regular support for a particular team is just kind of not quite the right fit for a circumstance or whatever, like she has the wrong element, so her damage is going to go from trivial to non-existent, well, you might want to swap an Astra instead and take the attack from that location instead of from, say, Lucy, for instance, or from Sokaku, or something like that. But I think that she's going to be a very long-serving support for most people, unless they decide to idiotically power creep her really early, which they could do. It could happen. But the swap-based mechanics, since fundamentally, like people level this criticism against Star Rail all the time. Oh, Star Rail's got only 3 buttons, so there's only 3 things you can do compared to the sort of the free movement and free combat that Genshin and ZZZ have. Well, that's true. There's nothing untrue about that. ZZZ has a similar but different problem in that the only mechanics that they currently have are fighting things and fighting things and fighting things for the most part. So you've got damage and you've got anomaly. And what else is there to look at? Well, one of the few things that it has in its toolkit is swapping as a mechanic that's universal to every character loadout. So, and if anything, that's going to get built on more, not less. There's going to be more characters coming out that they gain some benefit from swapping, or some mechanic is triggered by swapping, and so on and so forth. And Evelyn would just be the first sniff of that, probably. I'm thinking of pulling for her since I've got Astra and I've got, a big pile of polychrome burning a hole in my pocket. It's having some like more raw power to put on a team would be good, because I don't like playing Haramasa. It feels wrong, feels weird. He's okay at what he does, but I don't know. I can't get used to it. It feels weird.
Current Shiyu defense is the flippin' Haramasa Shiyu defense. Ugh.
I haven't tried it yet. I don't really want to build Haramasa just for that.
It is quite rough. I did it without Haramasa, but my times were through the roof.
Well, I'm already clearing Shiyu defense with like 5 seconds to spare as of last cycle, so that's probably going to be unpleasant for me.
This one is going to be rough because half the nodes are going to be element off cycle. For you, if you don't play Haramasa as your damage dealer.
Ugh, disgusting. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm thinking of pulling Evelyn just so that I can build another team, essentially. But I also kind of want the Obol squad guys. Like they look like they're cool and will probably work well together. And Envy is priceless, of course.
Uncompressed.
Yeah, like, Envy. I guess that the reason I like Envy is that she reminds me of Shiroko. Like, she's got the same sort of demeanor. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. I don't feel the same sort of pressure to calculate my decisions down to the nth decimal point on ZZZ that I do in other games like Star Rail, because I know ultimately I'm going to fall down on skill before I fall down on anything else when it comes to ZZZ. The limiting factor for me is never going to be the characters as much as the skill, unless they keep making Deadly Assault as asinine about its stringent requirements for team builds. If they've been drifting in the direction of not making all three have a specific team requirement, but until that, I won't be satisfied until they get down to 1. I think that 1 to 1.5 is the right number that have a specific team requirement, not 3.
Yeah, this one has been, aside from the new special boss, the same bosses that we've. 2 of them are bosses that are just the boss we've seen.
This one is still
boss fight.
2 specific team requirements. You need to have enough anomaly characters to staff 2 teams, because nothing but anomaly matters for 2 of those fights.
Oh, right, because what's your name? Pompey's bonus condition is only 2, ain't it?
Yeah. So, I might still be able to squeak it out this one, but I think that it should go down to 1. You should not have disorder for one team, anomaly for the other, because having disorder for one is about an 80% mandate that you must have 2 anomaly characters, preferably 2 premium anomaly characters on that team. And then if you put anomaly somewhere else, that means you need at least 3 anomaly characters, because if you've got anomaly as the requirement rather than disorder, you're more or less obliged to have a real anomaly character there, because it's going to be too slow using other characters. Whereas disorder usually pays off more points, so you can get away with fewer of them. But I don't agree with that. If the roster was double the size that it is now, I probably wouldn't care, because you'd be able to clutch something together to at least give it the old college try. But the problem here is that it feels closer to Imaginarium Theatre you can't really participate than it does to, you might have to use a clutch team for a couple of them.
Yeah, the problem will start to alleviate itself more as people actually are able to build up their backlogged roster. But that's going to take time. That's why I think Deadly Assault, while a good idea, is just too early.
Well, the thing is, that building up your backlog roster, like you got to keep in mind, you're building up characters like Ben and Billy. Like, what good are they going to do you?
Well, no, but I'm saying most people don't have like all their supports built, plus all the drivers built, plus all their 5 stars.
But
built.
that's not the threshold here. The threshold is to have premium characters that are new. That's what they're demanding. They're not demanding old characters. Like Soldier 11 as of next Deadly Assault cycle is not going to help you much, because it will be calibrated for Evelyn's level of power.
Yeah, I wonder
It will
what
not
the
be calibrated for Soldier 11. Soldier 11 is going to get wrecked.
I wonder what the final numbers are going to be on comparing those 2. I would like to see the actual numbers on
I
the
don't
shop.
think that they will be as raw characters that far apart, but I think that Evelyn plus Astra is going to be double what Soldier 11 plus Astra is.
Yeah, I would like to see the
I
numbers.
think Evelyn's probably going to be like 20 to 25% better than Soldier 11 as a raw character, but the multipliers on that for having other recent characters are going to be enormous.
But yeah, it's that's easy. As for Genshin being in maintenance mode, yeah, we talked about that. It's got Lantern Right going on.
Yeah, I think that the very early onset of maintenance mode feeling largely comes from their sloppy handling of the denouement for the main plot of Natlan, or so it appears so far. But there's so much left in this like whatever it is 5.x cycle that there's still plenty of room for them to chuck a curveball at us and bring in another major plot thread, because it really does feel like it all came to too neat of a conclusion too quickly.
I'm waiting for 5.4 to be like it was a dream the whole time.
Is everybody happy? Good. Everything's on fire now. Enjoy.
Yeah, it wraps up too fast, too clean. It's you haven't played Star Rail yet, Fern, but there's a moment at the end of Penacony where you get a fake ending.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like that should have happened in Genshin in 5.3. Like, you did so well up until the finale, and then everything just wrapped up too neat, too fast.
Yeah, except that it doesn't have the hints that there's anything wrong.
Yeah.
Unlike other situations where the same thing has been pulled. It just seems that they've just decided to stop telling that story now. But I mean, there's still other things in play, like Il Capitano more or less abandoned his mission, and the Tsaritsa's definitely going to end up sending another Harbinger to sort that crap out, and they're going to
If she
show up and
doesn't come
cause
in
all kinds
herself.
of. I don't think she'll leave her seat of power because there's still a whatchamacallit, a Gnosis in the wild, isn't there? The
Yes.
Pyronosis was never secured.
Yeah. Oh, the Fatui didn't get a hold of it yet.
Yet.
Yeah, and
They
as
will.
far as we know, the Tsaritsa needs it for some reason. So the story can't finish here because Natlan is not done with as long as the Gnosis is there.
And that stuff, I'm hoping, and we might get it during the patch stories, but I'm hoping that definitely in Mavwika's part 2 story that the Archons almost always get, except unless your name's Farina.
Yeah.
It'll delve into that.
I feel like, honestly, I feel like the current Lantern Rite story basically mogs on the whole Night Kingdom story.
Yeah.
Like it's just a better, more emotionally heavy deployment of the same thing. Like it's a more compact, like much in the way that Natlan 5.0 was a better version of Dawn Trail. I feel like it more compressed and more elegantly telling a similar story. I feel like Lantern Rite was the same thing for 5.3.
Well, they even
Like it was the ultra compact, really emotionally resonant, powerful story that draws on characters that you've had time to come and know and love to lend emotional impact to a really tense situation. It's got heaps of, background lore and stuff. Like it's like the ultra condensed version of Natlan, except it's better because they haven't drawn out things that you don't understand and that don't have meaning to you because you never explained them.
well, you got one line from Ningguang in there where Paimon of the Traveler or somebody's like, "Oh, like the Night Kingdom?" And she's like, "Yeah, no, not really."
Yeah, I've heard of that, but it's like, yeah. I mean, I gotta give props to Lantern Rite. Lantern Rite really, I felt like has been a really inspiring venture as far as the Hoyo teams go, because the thing that has stuck in everybody's craw for the longest time about Star Rail is the woodenness of a lot of the character interactions, but that has been up until now sort of par for the course in Hoyo. But they have used more sort of new character animations during conversations, new poses, new gestures, new things in Lantern Rite than they did through the entirety of 5.x so far.
They love dynamic camera angles during the story this time.
Yeah,
I
this is
was-
clearly like the Hildebrand of Genshin, like where they're just tooling around with what they can do with the models and the cameras, so
I
that
was
they can
really caught
implement
off
it later.
guard by Aether's incredibly dorky double thumbs up. I should have taken a screenshot of it, but it's just the worst. But it's great.
Like Might Guy tier.
Yeah. If Mike Guy really wasn't quite sure what he was doing.
Regardless, there's definitely sort of evolution going on there, and I think that Star Rail sorely needs it. Because Star Rail is really starting to lag behind in terms of what they're doing with the animation set, which they really have no excuse to do since that's where their budget's going to land.
I also noticed in Star Rail, going through the story this time, and this did take me out of the experience after so many of them, a lot of black screen, something happened, but you don't get to see it.
Yeah, I in most cases I could understand why they did it. It's like, yeah, I can imagine them animating this, and it would have been kind of awkward. It would have been awkward to sit there and watch it, and it would have been awkward to create it.
Try to space those scenes out amongst patches so we don't get so many of them back to back. Like that really started to stick out real bad. Like,
yeah, that I don't feel like they did it significantly more than previously, but I think that the things that they did do it for were a little bit more conspicuous rather than just things which are like there was nothing of the level of you spent 2 weeks with the resistance or whatever.
no, it's always like so and so opened this very important lore gate the background lore of Amphorius, and it was a big dramatic event that sent you traveling through, and we're just not going to show any of that.
Just take our word for it.
It's like, well, we definitely haven't done this animation yet. I mean, in a lot of cases, like I'm willing to sort of give them the benefit of the doubt because a lot of, like, for instance, Tribby's stuff is currently secret because she's an unreleased character. So anything that she does as a routine is going to be part of her sort of her animation set for her release as a character. And so maybe there is like, oh, we don't really want to stick this asset in here yet because it's just going to end up getting spooled out into the leaks even more. Whereas most of the leaks just at this stage happen in just writing. It's just written. People don't have most of the animations yet. Those leaks happen way later. So I don't know. It's sort of hard to say. But by and large, what Lantern Right shows is that they've got a lot more room to play with their character models now that they haven't leveraged much until recently, but now they're really being like, if you take particularly a very dynamic character like Hu Tao, who's just very animated generally, she's not using anymore the same old generic gesture sets that they've been using for animations and conversations anymore. Like, she's prancing all over the camera when she's talking.
Yeah, and they
like, if you like, particularly like when you go to give the coin to Yunjin and she's basically teasing her non-stop.
That's
like
another,
all of that's custom animation.
That's another thing. They finally started working on making it so characters can have items and items can be rendered in the world. You saw a little bit of this in 5.0 and onwards. So you know how characters have the hand over something animation that's incredibly awkward with empty hands.
Yeah.
L2P Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Yes. Unless it's a major lore item, that thing's invisible.
Well, even then, until 5.0, we didn't even get to see the major lore items. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
But we finally saw saw them goofing around with it with the name thing, 5.0. Fern's not there yet, but there's like a drink that gets handed around a lot, and in Lantern Right, like all the coins and stuff, you get to see them. They pull them out of the pocket, and the Rattan dolls that are a big part of the event, you get to see them around.
Yeah, so far I've just seen that stuff all laying on a table, which they've done before plenty of times. So it's good when you start seeing new animations on characters. It just adds that something extra special.
I am more impressed with their evolution of cinematography and actually adopting proper camera angles for dynamic movement in the scenes. Without having to actually awkwardly jerk the character models around. This Lantern Right, and a little bit during some of the Sit Lolly scene in 5.0, you can really tell they figured out some tricks with movement just by having more interesting camera angles to convey that movement. Or to
that, they don't need to hide nearly as much.
Yeah, or to convey a particular tone with the scene. It desyncs from English voice acting a little bit, but given that the current
there is no English voice acting, it's not a problem.
Yeah, I meant in 5.0 when they started doing it with okay. Scenes. And I think this honestly goes even further than the character model updates. Star Rail feels particularly bad with its character model updates because there's only like 4 conversation character models or stock animations. Like, it seems like every animation or every bit of talking between characters is done with like just the crossed arm pose.
Yeah, I think that and to some extent, that's in some ways a little bit more realistic because people don't really gesticulate wildly when they're talking unless you're in Italy. But I think that what they're really doing is that they're just leaning on their environment design more than anything else, because what Star Rail really has going for it is the retardedly lavish environments that they put everything in. Like, they clearly loaded all of their sort of their non-animated asset design team. All of their all-stars got put on the Star Rail project, whereas like the animation team, they all got put on the ZZZ project, that type of thing.
Yeah, I like how each character in ZZZ, and because ZZZ has VN section in the character stories, where you'll see the characters in side-by-side split screen. and that really focus on the character's unique animations rather than the environment they're in, because their environment design is easy limited, but their character animations are super high quality compared to the other Hoyo games. It's very interesting. Or if you don't activate that teleport point, I can't catch you.
I'm down in the hole. Actually, I need to climb out of the hole, and there's so many bitey things down here.
I will come assist you in out of the hole. But yeah,
I'll tell you about a way out.
I did notice a bit of a drag in the presentation in Star Rail, and hope they catch on to some of what ZZ and Genshin have been doing, because I think you can add a lot to that story just with better animation work and more dynamic camera angles. That's really all it would take.
If there's one thing that has become quite obvious in the sort of the post Star Rail, post ZZZ era, is that they're really starting to get the hang of cross pollination.
Yeah.
Like pretty much every feature that was pioneered by Star Rail has appeared in ZZZ and has been gradually being backfilled into Genshin, and every new feature which has been pioneered in ZZZ has been backfilled into Star Rail and Genshin. Like they are realizing that they can build a sort of a more cohesive stable here by, you know, farming out their best ideas to multiple different titles rather than just keeping them in one and frustrating the others.
Maybe now we can make the delete red mail button the same across all games.
That would be nice.
I just want my 5-star Ningguang. There's 5-star Don Hang and there's 5-star Ting Yun and there's 5-star Anby coming out. I want my 5-star Ningguang, damn it. She always deserved to be a 5-star from the start.
Maybe next Lantern, right?
My wallet will be in trouble, but I don't care.
You're gonna spend $1,000 on C6 Ningguang, aren't you?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm. Right. That's the Hoyo stuff from his email. What else he got in here? We got kind of sidetracked. Yeah, as far as for Star Rail characters, that's going to come down to your account. So the mechanics is turn based, so we don't really need that.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna bow out of the next couple of cycles and hoard for Castoris rather than go all in on Anglaya. Like I can see the shape of Anglaya being monstrously powerful, but as things currently stand, I'm not really in a rush to go all in on that because my current level of Jade is not really healthy enough for it without hedging myself out of other things, because I want Tribby to support the Herta, because I really like the Herta. I want to spend more time using the Herta, and I think Tribby is probably the ideal support for her. And I definitely want to get into the summon meta at some point, but I think something later on like Castoris would probably be a better play for me rather than trying to build multiple teams from scratch at once. I'd rather sort of polish up the Herta team, since my break team is already very serviceable, and as long as they don't completely shelve break as far as the buffs in endgame goes, that team will probably still continue to be useful. So, especially that since they've got an incentive to keep them useful, because if they make Fugue crappy too quickly, people will never trust them again. They've got to keep her in play for quite a while. So I'm happy with that team. My follow-up team is mediocre but satisfactory. Like I've still been able to do all the stuff that requires follow-up using my my team which has March 7th instead of Topaz, and it doesn't seem like it's a huge loss in raw power compared to Topaz. I know Topaz is a real high ceiling, but March 7th seems to do just fine in that role. But I think that it might be a bit much to try and build full summon now for me, especially since the lightning niche, I've already got Acheron and Heaven Forbid Kafka for that. I have Sunday, so I'm ready to go on summon when summon becomes a thing. But until then, Sunday can service the Hyper Bunny team.
I'm just hoping that they don't pull a Firefly with a Glaya, and we don't see a big summon driver for a while after she comes out. Somebody that can get out there and really pump the damage out.
Yeah, I think that you're probably, I don't know, I don't think it'll go quite the same way, because summon is a way more diverse mechanic than Super Break. Like, because remember, Aglaya's not really a mechanic. She's a path. She's the representative for damage dealers in a new path.
Yeah.
And that path is likely to have heaps of different things in it. We don't know the shape of it. There are heaps of different leaks coming out, but none of them coalesce around anything in particular. Like, My Day is going to, functionally power creep Blade, but eventually he'll get a support, which will probably uplift Blade as well. So Blade will probably end up being sort of, the non-Pro Max version of My Day in the end. Because the big problem with Blade is that Blade has never been in the meta. There's a lot of people talk about, oh, Blade is being power creeped. And it's like, well, yeah, the problem was that Blade was never any good, not that Blade got power creeped, because they never released any supports for him. There was no premium support that made Blade work better. And if they release another HP adjustment based character, then there's an incentive for him to get his own support. And so I guess that's going to be the Bishi archetype, since both of the damage dealers that lean heavily into HP adjustment are going to be Bishonen. But but there's other elite characters coming out as well. Like, nobody really knows anything about what Custoris is going to be, but all of the bets are on Remembrance because of the fact that there's some media which has to do with a pet dragon. The only way that's really going to get onto the battlefield is as a summon at this point. But there's other characters. Like, there's a character that people say, oh, this is going to power creep Silver Wolf, but apparently this mechanic is based around weakness install, and that his damage maxes out once he manages to install every weakness in a target.
Mm-hmm. You need the sheet slate for this, Fern. You need a quest for it.
Yeah, figured I was missing something here.
And of course, Triby's going to be a multi-target sort of follow-up-esque harmony. Not going to benefit follow-up directly in the way that that Robin does, but be a follow-up herself. So probably be like for follow-up hyper carry and for characters that just need lots of hits on target, like the Hurter. But so yeah, there's like none of these things coalesce around like a single narrow archetype. They don't have the mechanic called Super Break, and every character that has the keyword Super Break in their kit suddenly becomes mandatory. Like, that's not something that has eventuated yet. That doesn't appear to be on the cards based on all the leaks that we've currently seen. So going all in on Aglaya because Summon is a meta, I don't think Summon is a meta yet. Like, I think that there's going to be a meta Aglaya team based on having Sunday and Aglaya and various other characters that emphasize her speed. That's definitely going to be a thing. But I don't think that it's going to be, oh, well, the Summon meta is Aglaya. I think there's going to be Aglaya teams, and there's going to be Custoris teams, and there's going to be teams of various other things as well. I think that's more likely to be the way that it shapes up. Or at least I hope that that's the case, because I'm much happier if characters can stand on their own as their own thing, rather than there just being a cookie cutter team that you've got to check all the boxes and then you can use. Like in Genshin, like, neither of us have really ever had perfect teams for any particular driver that we use, but we've always been able to get the job done. We've had to, cludge somebody in here and there because we don't have a perfect fit. So, oh, well, I need Fishwife for this. Yeah, but Barbara, the Eternal Idol of Mondstadt, can do that job, right? It'll be fine.
Like, the jellyfish would be better, but the music works just fine.
Yeah, I would very much like for Starrel to get to that particular point, and I think a lot of that will have to do with their release pacings. Like I was talking about with Mozart in the past, you wouldn't have, mandatory premium follow-up team if, Mozart had always been a thing, and by the time Feixiao came up, everybody who really liked follow-up already had a built Mozart, a built ratio. They could do follow-up, and Feixiao was sort of like, this is the premium Pro Max version of what you're already doing. You still have a follow-up team if you pass on her.
Hopefully they've also learned from the Black Swan debacle, where they ended an archetype before finishing it.
Yeah, I think that they had not let that idea cook long enough. They didn't think carefully enough about the problems, like requiring the enemy to have a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if they do fix it, they're going to have to jam all of those fixes into probably one Nihility support or one Harmony support, depending on the way you structure it. And there won't be really much alternative. And that's going to end up stepping on a lot of toes. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, because it doesn't look like they're ready to call it quits on Dot yet. Just that they don't really know exactly how they can fix it without adding 40% damage to everybody.
Yeah. All right. Last section of his email is about Metroidvanias. Yeah, I like Nine Souls a lot. It's I would, as far as the dross that is the slew of indie Metroidvanias, I think it's a solid 9 out of 10. I really like the parry mechanic. When done well, very few games that do it well, and really force you to sit down and learn boss fights. I think Nine Souls struck a good enough balance that if you had to pick one of the slew of indie Metroidvanias out there, it's definitely a recommend if you like one that has a bit more teeth to it. As for Ender Magnolia, it's on the wish list, but yet again, there are a billion of these. And I like the first one, but the first one, the big problem with Ender Lilies is the game has no teeth. I don't need a game to have teeth to enjoy it, and it's okay exploring the world and getting something out of that. But for Metroid style games, them having teeth so that your upgrades and your exploration really pays off adds a whole lot to it. And the first game was just way too easy. So I hope I'll probably play the second one eventually, and I think you play as a Shota, not a Lolly, in that one. I think it's a little icky boy. But yeah, it's in full release now. I'll pick it up at some point, and when I eventually do play it, I'll get back to you.
Okay. We're just about at time at the moment, but there's probably time enough for a couple of quick news articles.
I wouldn't call it an article. I wouldn't even call it news.
Would you call it a dumpster fire?
I would call it dread. It's just a feeling of deep, unsettling horror at what's about to happen.
Do tell.
The Devil May Cry anime is coming out in April.
Oh,
The one made in
yeah.
the West by Netflix.
They've already done this before, Aristeele.
They did do it
possibly
before.
go wrong?
Yeah, they have done it before, and it went okay for the first 2 seasons, and then this particular director drunk the woke Kool-Aid something crazy. Let's not do that. I already have one game in the mainline series, one accident caused by Team Ninja that I have to pretend don't exist. Don't add an animated show to that list, please.
Well, what about the other animated show?
The other animated show is not great, but it's not bad either. It's not offensive. You don't have to write
it's
it
just
off.
kind of there.
You don't need to actually erase it from history.
No,
we just don't talk about it very much.
No, it's just nothing special. It's not great, but it's not the absolute worst.
Yeah. We'll see, but honestly, not high hopes. I'd honestly kind of forgotten about it.
I love Devil May Cry. I think Dante is the definition of how you should design a cool character, and just a character that knows how to have fun, but still get the job done. And just every piece of media that's an alternate interpretation that isn't it soon as Dante has the potential to do damage to it. Like, I love Devil May Cry, and if I was a creator, I would never touch it. If I was given the opportunity to make a Devil May Cry something, a piece of media that would be recognized as an official Devil May Cry thing, I wouldn't do it. It's too risky to damage the idea and image of the character. Like, Dante is special. He's a relic from an era that is past. But they're gonna kill him. They're gonna kill him by reinterpreting him. Oh, man, I'm so...
He's gonna like lecture the demons about diversity.
They're gonna turn Lady and Trish into lesbians. It's gonna be awful.
Please no.
I have negative hopes for this. I've functionally already written it off as we're screwed.
Gonna be bad, Joe.
If it is not terrible and at least passable, I'll consider that a major win. But given how this director went with the later seasons of Castlevania, not likely.
It's a shame, actually, because the first season or two of Castlevania was actually really good.
It was workable. I wouldn't call it good.
For what it was, I'd say good. I wasn't, mind you, my expectation going into that was 0. So
Yeah, it's oh, you'll get a mouthful from me when that comes out in April, because I'm going to watch it. I'll borrow the family Netflix account, or I'll Yarhar Fiddle DD.
Yarhar.
And I will report back with just, oh goodness, how awful is this?
If you give Netflix viewer numbers, then they will assume that it was good.
Yeah, probably should Yarhar Fiddle DD it, just to be safe.
Yep.
So yeah, that's that. That's all I had. I didn't see anything else that really jumped out at me in terms of gaming news in our wheelhouse.
All right. A lot of the stuff that's kept crossing my radar this week has been all the fallout from Veilguard still.
I'm mainly seeing continued fallout from the new Assassin's Creed.
Oh, both of which are just awful.
Well, they're both a product of the same thing, though.
They are.
Ultimately. So there is something here which has definitely been the priority over the traditional vision for this game.
Yeah. So Veilguard only met about half of its expected revenue, so that was a commercial flop. They did still sell a couple of million copies, which for most games would still be successful, but not for something on that scale. And I've just gotten myself into some horrible trouble here.
I just teleported away to go heal. What'd you do?
Ran into some guys who have axes.
Coming as fast as I can. Got a
There's-
motorbike.
Stuff in co-op mode is a lot tougher than it is in single player.
It's 60% tougher. Something
Yes.
like
So anyway, as a part of all this fallout, and because of the game was a massive flop, all the writing staff got axed. This is in addition to Corinne Bush, quote unquote, retiring from the team. So everything's kind of falling apart over there. The studio, the Edmonton studio of BioWare, has also been shuttered. Okay, I need to just run away. Run
that.
away.
Isn't Edmonton like the main one that made
The
Dragon Age
BioWare
originally?
studio. Yep.
Good
So,
grief. How did they manage to clown this up so badly?
if you've watched any footage of Dragon Age, the Veilguard, you know.
Well, we know the end result, but we don't know how they got there.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like,
we-
this is definitely, you know, the product of somebody being given more power than they should have to do things that are not related to video games.
Yeah. So yeah, you've got ultimately you've ended up with basically the Disney-fied version of Dragon Age, where they're talking about pronouns for half the game. So just why?
Well,
On the
with
plus
this thing,
side,
there's been a bizarre sort of moral valence has been added to this. Like, you actually become a good person by means of saying all of these things, doing all of these rituals. That's the definition of morality.
Okay, all your axe people are dead, Fern. I brought the motorcycle.
Yay! Yeah. On the plus side, though, EA is trying to make some money for a change. It's the 25th anniversary of The Sims, so you can buy The Sims 1 and Sims 2 as complete bundles for fairly cheap. You know, the two good ones.
I mean, do we have any 50-year-old housewives that listen to our podcast?
Probably not.
Because that's about the only people that's going to buy that.
To be fair, Sims 2, I had a lot of fun with the Open for Business expansion.
I
But
played.
that was
Yeah,
years ago. Yeah.
I played them because my mom had them and would talk about them all the time, but never got into them. One of them had actual like objectives to fill out in gameplay, proper gameplay on the GameCube of all stupid things, and I remember
Hmm.
enjoying that one significantly more than the other ones, but it was still The Sims.
Yeah.
I've never
Ultimately,
played one.
it's the sort of game you make your own fun, really, by creating your family and tormenting them, or just randomly locking passers-by into a dungeon. This is not how they're supposed to play the game, but this is how I played the game.
Take the
Damn
ladder
it.
out, put them in the swimming pool, take the ladder out of the swimming pool, watch them drown.
I saw
Surround them by toilets and watch them panic.
I saw a tweet about a guy who was relating. I think I can't remember whether it's a tweet or a tweet of a green text or something. But the guy who had written the original message had related extensively that he had found out that his girlfriend had this long running, like years long running game of The Sims, where she had sort of like extensively engaged in extremely careful eugenics for every family in the neighborhood to make sure that
Yeah.
only the right people paired up and they had the right children with the right traits and that sort of thing. And like the entire thing was like a years long eugenics project that his girlfriend had been running on The Sims and spreadsheeting everything.
Okay, I'm not sure if
is that a red flag or
That is
it's either that or it's like she watches way too many romance soaps.
it is a flag of the tism if spreadsheets are involved. But
Yes.
I don't know how much somebody's tism affects their day to day life. Varies by person. You gotta have a bit more context.
So yeah, anyway, so that's just throwing that out there because that caught me by surprise when it just popped up in Steam because hey, here's the Sims games 1 and 2, not 3 for some reason, but the games that people actually liked and weren't being milked like a overripe dairy cow.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The housewives have all bought every like $400 DLC for The Sims 4 at this point.
Actually, remind me that. Let me see. Sims 4 on Steam. Someone did mention just the other day how much the full set cost. The base game's free now. It didn't used to be. Let's see. See all. There are 92 pieces of DLC, totaling $1,300 dues, and they are currently on 30% off.
crikey?
That is a lot of terrible content.
And you get like nothing for what you pay to, I bet, in each pack.
Like a different colored t-shirt.
Like traditionally, Sims 1 was all experimental and that was great. And every expansion added something new. Sims 2 came along and it took out some stuff but added again as new content again. And then Sims 3 did, the same thing, except took bigger chunks just to sell back. And Sims 4 was very, very bare bones when it came in, so they could sell even more. It's just how they do it.
I find myself, despite how egregious I know the Sims DLC is, I find it hard to criticize when I paid for Dodge Rat.
Yeah, this is the way the world has gone.
Yeah.
Like
At least there's gameplay associated with it. It's not just something that plays itself.
Yeah, like at least I have enjoyed my many hours of playing as Dodge Rat, but did pay for Dodge Rat.
Well, I mean, I think that the problem that you need to attend to first is your League of Legends account.
Yeah. I can write that one off as being young and dumb, but paying for Dodge Rat was made with the full cognizant realization of exactly what I was doing with a real world job and real world money.
Yeah. All right. I'm just doing a quick flick through, seeing if there's anything else that really jumps out of it.
I didn't see anything on my troll through the usual sites.
Not really. Like Multiverse is getting shut down. It's like nobody cared about Multiverses.
I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did, to be honest.
Frankly, I am too, because the whole thing was just a big ripoff. It felt like.
Well, its IPs were strong, but they hadn't been leveraged in a way to really draw an audience for the style of game they were presenting.
in one case, the IP had been leveraged in a way to drive the audience away.
What was
They look at you, Velma.
Oh
Velma.
yeah, right. That was a thing.
That should not have been a thing, but it was a thing.
Good old. There's a treasure chest over here, by the way.
Yep, just following the trail of sparklies. Like, there were some neat ideas in the game, but it's all wrapped up in incredibly mercenary monetization.
Yeah, but it's going.
It shall not be mourned.
Yeah, and I really want us to have another long runner to talk about instead of jumping between all the Hoyo games as our MMO.
Well, hopefully we got Monster Hunter coming up in a few weeks, and with
Well,
any
I
luck,
mean,
they won't ruin it.
It doesn't matter because I can't play it.
Oh?
Because my computer's not powerful enough. Nobody's computer is.
Oh, right.
Remember, quote, targeting 30 FPS on PS5.
Yes.
Like that's
I only have a a fairly modest computer, and modest is not good enough for that game.
Yeah, I bought a 40 series GPU under the assumption that when I saw that tagline, and I don't think that will be enough to run this game at anything more than 30.
Yeah, it took some jiggery pokery on my part in order to get the thing to a playable state, and that was only the demo.
Yeah, the full game will render the whole map, because remember we got one contiguous map now. That's going to just wreck your frames.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody cares about optimization anymore. Apparently, it's just obnoxious. What the hell am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to play that game? Like, I just have a very modest 3070 in my computer, but you need a 4060 minimum. Like, I'm not going to spend money on that. I'm sorry. I don't care to play your game that much that you want me to spend $1,000 to get my next graphics card. To get a graphics card powerful enough for me to reasonably play Monster Hunter would cost me an entire new computer. No, you're mad.
Yeah, and then if you're on PC, one of the big benefits of playing the Monster Hunter, at least World anyway, was being able to play it at 60 FPS.
Yeah.
And that
if you low times.
Yeah, and I will not be able to hit that with a 40 series card.
Nope. Like, I'm still going to play it, but it's not going to be at full graphics.
I don't want to play a slideshow, thanks.
Yeah, the thing is, I wouldn't mind turning down some graphic settings if I could guarantee performance. But the fact of the matter is, because of the way they're rendering the world in this game, because they're probably using the RE engine, which is not built for them. And because I've married up other shoes with just the game design itself, I do not see a scenario where I can even get my my 40 series card to consistently keep above 30, and that's insane.
Yeah, it's a big ask.
Yeah, that's you've got to these companies got to return to optimizing.
Like there's so many good ideas I'm seeing in Wilds where the big open world does make sense from a gameplay point of view, not necessarily from a technical and optimization point of view.
It's the next step up for Monster Hunter, and that's fine. The problem is they're using an engine that's not built to do that. The two games that were meant to really leverage the RE engine was one Resident Evil, RE7 and 8. And those games have a trick they use to get around it, where they deload. That's basically, even though it's one big world for the Resident Evil games, it will unload everything that is not part of the current quote unquote level, and use old school, oldest style tunnels, to unload it as you're walking. And when you cross the threshold, we'll start loading in the old one. Devil May Cry 5 is literally a level-based game with very few models on screen at any given time, and the enemies don't appear until you get into the combat arena.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's fine for this engine. You can have this very high fidelity, detail oriented engine like that in those scenarios. What you cannot do is run a full open world game that needs the map fully rendered or most of it rendered the whole time. When you're with all kinds of little critters and monsters everywhere, because you have to be able to track the monster.
Yep, they did it with Dragon's Dogma 2, and look how that turned out.
Yeah, like Dragon's Dogma 2 had performance shoes everywhere, and that one still tried to apply some trickery to it.
Yeah,
but
which is
Monster
a shame
Hunter,
because it's a very good game.
yeah, but Monster Hunter's nature as a hunting game, where tracking the monster is a big part of it. Just I don't see how they can make it work. The engine
Yeah.
ain't built for that.
Well, they aren't even pretending like they have, though. Otherwise, they wouldn't have those sky-high system requirements.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Like I think the problem is much more fundamental than that. I think the fundamental problem is the same problem that every single one of these developers that we criticize every show has, which is that they've forgotten their roots. Like, what made Monster Hunter popular was not visual fidelity, and it was not their open world design. It was not their graphical stuff. It was not their ecosystems. It was none of that stuff. It was the fact everybody could play it because it was on PSP. It was on DS. Like, everybody had access to it, and so you could build a community. Instead of that, they are now opting for the tiny slice of the player base which have an incredibly ninja graphics card. And those people can participate, and those people can be the whole community. At a time where, the flow of electronics out of Taiwan is about to be strangulated.
Yeah,
Again.
This is going to be worse than most of them. This is going to be a big knock-on effect of Trump's tariffs. Is you're going to see a reduction in. I'm lagging and stuck doing donuts.
That's there you go.
You're going to see, because of his tariffs, one of the immediate negative effects that's going to take a while to get over is until silicon production can move to the US, you're going to see no kind of production like that coming from China. And you're going to have China incentivized to choke Taiwan's export of it.
Well, the thing is that Trump is tariffing Taiwan as well.
Oh, is he?
He's not just tariffing China. He's tariffing Taiwan because he needs to incentivize everybody to switch to US, not to just go to Taiwan.
Yeah. So they are working on those silicon plants in Florida, and apparently they made some good progress, but they ain't ready yet.
Yeah, it'll be a few years off yet.
Yeah, we're looking at minimum a year or two before those are up and running.
But even if none of that applied, it's still a tiny section of the player base. Like, if they periodically release the Steam statistics, and I'm here to tell you that the average gamer does not have a 4060.
Well, most people saw the 4060's price tag and the performance difference and just said no.
Yeah, even waiting for a sale on the current 40 series on any 40 series card, you're still paying through the nose.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe the idea is, the 50 series is about to release, so it's going to drive the price of the 40 series down. Yeah, it didn't happen last time, did it?
From what I can tell, the jump between the 40 and the 50 series is even smaller than the jump between the 30 and the 40.
Yeah, it
Power
depends.
consumption isn't.
Yeah.
Well, except for the power consumption. The power consumption goes way up. And you need a small room in order to keep that thing in. It's massive.
Yeah, so I would have to rebuild my computer from scratch anyway, because I don't think I can house a 40 series card. Some of the 50 series cards are actually smaller than their 40 series equivalents, because ever since they've decided to make the Founders Edition version of the graphics card an actual commercial prospect, they've done a lot of work developing their heat dissipation technology that they have in-house. So their first party editions of the graphics cards are actually improving over time, and they're getting smaller gradually. Like the current series of 50 series cards, the prototypes that were in the wild a while back, I haven't followed up recently, were only like 2 to 2.5 slot. They weren't like 3 to 4 slot monstrosities like they were last cycle. So they have improved on that count, but in terms of sheer length, they're more or less the same as they were last time.
Yeah, I as I mentioned before, when I put this card in my PC, it was the tightest fit possible because I mismeasured, or they mislisted the actual measurements, and I had like 3 millimeters of clearance, and it sits in there, with just enough pressure on it that it does not need a spacer. I have one in there anyway, but it does not need it.
Let's see.
But yeah,
GeForce.
I think releasing the game with these specs is just it's suicide. Like people are not going, especially considering the genre and how much performance can affect the genre.
Yeah.
This is just a very, very silly move, in my opinion. You're going to incredibly narrow your participating community, and their enthusiasm for it is going to be reduced because they're being impeded by the technology. It's a bad idea. It's a straight up bad idea. They would have a bigger community playing a remaster of Monster Hunter World than they will of this new one at the rate they're going. Unless it turns out that they've been ridiculously conservative and it actually works on like a 2080, I think that this is not going to wash for simple
Well,
practical
yeah.
reasons that people can't play it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure my current graphics card should be able to handle it because if I need to upgrade to a 78, then there goes all my budget for VR goggles this year.
I'm going to wait to see if I can get some information on how it actually performs for people with normal graphics cards like mine.
I have harped on and on multiple times about over the course of this show how important it is for an action game of any stripe to maintain a consistent performance as high a frame rate as is reasonable for what they're going for. And everything about this game just sends up red flags that it's not going to do that. And that's not a small deal. That even if you can run this thing, its performance being consistent is important. Because how you learn to play an action game and how stuff develops in your muscle memory is tied to consistent frame rate and performance. And if this thing's got shoes running and is frame rates jerking all over the place while you're playing, it's gonna screw with your ability to play, learn, and enjoy the game.
Yeah. So we shall see. We shall see. I did get it running pretty good on the demo version, but again, demo version, not necessarily an indicator of the final product.
Yeah, I have a 40 series card, so I'll be able to run it, but like I'm expecting to have to, even locked at 30, I don't think I'll be able to maintain 30 if what I've seen from this game coming out actually hits.
Yeah,
I have not downloaded the demo, to be fair, but
there's
that
a
is
whole
not going to go.
bunch. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of graphical upscaling and all these other ridiculously fancy bits and pieces that you just don't need. You turn those off and you gain a lot of performance back.
Yeah, just
the fact that you have to do that in the first place is, yeah.
I mean,
you shouldn't have to be doing that.
I'm fully expecting to have to turn down the resolution to 1080p when I run this thing to be able to get it to hit 30.
To nudge me over the line to usability is going to cost me not less than $800. Like there's an argument that you can play it with everything turned way down on a 3060 based on what I've seen of the sort of relative power hierarchies of cards and what they're capable of doing. But
wasn't there a benchmarking tool?
Benchmarking tools are not necessarily reliable because they're a marketing device. They're going to tell you that you're within range regardless.
Yeah,
it's
their definition of what's within range is very generous.
It's going to be wait till it comes out and what reports are people various devices.
It's going to be wait till next Black Friday. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah,
I'm not made of dosh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait until it comes out to see what the performance is like before you decide on buying the game or not, and then it's.
Well, it's also the game itself is $130.
Oh, that's right.
Which doesn't help. It's expensive.
Yeah, it's like that's why I'm saying it's $1,000 to play the game because I need to pay for the game as well as pay for the new graphics card.
Yeah, I think it's.
And even if I bought the cheapest graphics card that would get me over the line, it's going to be a very marginal upgrade since I'm only barely falling short. Like I'm over the line for like their, when they list the minimum that you can actually play, which means that you can get the game to boot, sort of thing. Like I'm over that line. I just don't meet the line to actually play.
Oh, Fern. Thought you were behind me.
Whoopsie. Oh. Oh, you're over there. Okay.
I'm dead.
Well, stop it.
Congratulations.
I can't get back to you.
Oh, I am also dead. Okay, I should have done that. Run away!
You have a second life.
I do, which is good for running away.
I was on a motorcycle.
Yeah,
Anyway,
a lot of fatalities.
with everything then, we're over times again, so we should probably wrap up.
Yeah. I was going on your estimate of we're almost at time, so I thought we had a bit.
We were, and now we're over. So yeah.
All right. Well, Monster Hunter must have took longer than I thought there. All right. Yeah, I'll probably scoop it early or week 1. And I'll report on my stuff. That's not going to help Vol's scenario very much because I don't have a card around his tier, but maybe other people will have reports.
Well,
out then.
technically speaking, you do have one that's only slightly more powerful than mine. You could bung that one in, or did you sell it?
I sold it.
Yeah. What did you say you had, Vol? A 2080?
No, I've got a 3070.
You got 3070. Okay, that's probably should be
Non-TI.
roughly on tier. I think that's roughly on tier with the 6700, which I've got.
Yeah, well, it's sort of sitting on the line as far as Monster Hunter is concerned.
Yeah, it's right at the bottom line.
And I don't really want to play on the bottom line because playing an action game on the bottom line is really unpleasant.
Yeah, this is
It is not good, especially something that's very, very
And
visually irrelevant.
I saw some of the footage of people trying to play on that stuff when the demo was out, and it was an atrocity. Like
potato.
PS2 era quality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's nice that they let you turn the graphics down that far, but I'm not playing that shit. It's worse than Monster Hunter World, and it's not close.
Yep. So all right. That'll be something we can look into and you complain about or report back on as our situation presents. You got anything else for us on this out?
Nope.
Right.
No, I have to. I remembered something I was going to talk about during my week later, but I don't have the time to go into it now. I don't think.
Write it down and we'll tack it on next week. All right, folks.